which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies. Roll call, Rick Winter.
I am present.
Have you done?
Here.
Approval of minutes.
Motion to approve minutes of the 11/4/24 meeting.
At 11:19.
Am I on the wrong thing again?
Yeah, I think so.
I am, aren't I?
I think it.
I'm always
maybe it's on
behind.
the first page.
That's the minutes.
There you go. It's right underneath that one.
All right. That is the minutes for the previous meeting. 11/19 meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of claims.
I'll make the motion to approve claims for 12 up to 12/6/24.
Second the motion.
Discussion.
I have one comment. We're making our final payment to Joint for the 700,000 plus or minus from the what was the ARP funds at one time. Since we're making that payment, they made certain representations back when we were going to, when we allocated that money and approved that money, and I'm not so sure that they're at the point that they should be after a couple of years of working on this. And so even though we may pay the money now, I'd like to see us hold them accountable for what they had promised to, as opposed to what they're maybe where they're at.
Hold that payment and have them come to the next meeting, because I think there's a lot of questions we need to ask them.
Well, I wouldn't have a problem with that, but it's already been paid.
No.
Okay. Be held. I wouldn't mind asking them to give us a report on where they're at. It's a substantial amount of money that we are paying.
They didn't email you?
I called them. I've never received a call back over. Apparently, I'm not keeping up on my email. I thought I was, but John sent me something too that either out of my it may be my memory too. So
Yeah. Is that okay if you all have?
I'd like to. I wouldn't mind holding that if we're one way or the other. They need to be accountable for what they've done
The
so
other thing
far.
is, everyone I talk to seems like, it's costing several $1,000s just to hook up a lot of times. Seems like we provide that much funding from this words to be, you still have to pay an exorbitant amount of money to hook onto it.
I know they're just down the corner from where I live, and they can't find. Not that we have internet from another source, but that they're not able to run into the neighborhood either. So but we already have one source, but some of these places do not, and that was supposedly one of the things I thought they were going to do, is that we'd have a major portion of the county covered, and we're not covered at this point, area-wise, that is.
So we're all in agreement to have them come to the next meeting and withhold the claim till after they answer some questions. Is that acceptable to everybody?
I'm okay with that. That's fine.
Okay, we'll hold that one if you would.
I'm gonna turn my phone off here.
So the motion will be accordingly with the holding of the. I will change my motion if that's all right to exclude the payment to Joint until we have an accountability for that.
Second the amended motion.
We're all in favor, right?
Yes.
Aye.
No further motion for this one. Approval of payroll.
Make a motion to approve payroll as presented.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Go to public comment. Anybody have public comment? There will be a second time. We'll go to new issues, 287 program, Brandon Ruth.
I don't know. So Brandon Ruth, Cayuga, Indiana. I don't know if Kylie got you any information.
She did.
I'm going to give a separate source of information because upon reviewing the information that she gave you, it was a little bit biased, I think. So there's quite a few immigration think tanks out there, so that one was a little perhaps biased
Is
in
that
the
it?
other
That's
direction.
what she gave me.
It is, this is a different one, so I don't know.
Thank you.
That's the one I'm kind of referencing now. So I guess given the environment we're in with concerns about illegal immigration, I was looking up the other day about what's the opposite of a sanctuary city? Like what's the polar opposite of that? And there's nothing specific about that, but there is a program that I discovered called the 287G program, which is part of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which I think was passed in 1996, so it's an older act, but it's something that's been in the books for some time. What that program does is it basically allows local law enforcement to be deputized to work in conjunction with ICE and even act as ICE agents in certain areas. So with concerns that I've seen in Logansport, which is not that far from us, with problems with illegal immigration there, I have a friend that's been telling me about some issues down in Terre Haute with various buses showing up at truck stops and loading people. So again, my concern, I guess, is with my county. I don't want to see that happen. This program is totally voluntary. The approach is basically that local law enforcement contacts ICE and says, you know, I'd like to be enrolled in this program. Right now, there's two functionalities of it. You can either have a jail enforcement model where people that commit offenses they can be interrogated by someone that's deputized by ICE to determine their immigration status and actually put them on the way to deportation if they're illegally here. There's also a warrant service officer model where ICE serves warrants and the local police officers ICE determines the warrant and it's served by someone local. So it's kind of, again, an extension of ICE. So, and this program's been around for a while. It's not, I mean, there's something like 3,144 counties in this country, anywhere between, numbers vary, I think 70 to 120 counties are enrolled in this. Governor DeSantis in 2022 required all counties in Florida to enroll in this. So every single county right now in Florida participates in this. All of the law enforcement is basically an extension of ICE in Florida. There's a lot of participation in Texas also. The training kind of varies, and again, that's something really for the local sheriff's office to investigate. There's much more intensive training if it's going to be a jail enforcement model where the deputy or the person deputized is going to actually do an investigation. But that training is taken care of by federal funds, so federal funding should cover almost all of the training, some of the infrastructure, the management, and the oversight of the program. So it's really just ICE looking out for assistance through communities to do what they do. Right now, there's no county in Indiana that participates in this, and again, why that is, I have no idea. I think the area, you know, like in Logansport, that county certainly could have benefited from something like this, given the recent news. So,
How does it benefit the local counties?
how has this program been, or how is
How does it benefit?
So I don't have any contacts. You're my first point of contact, really, and it was just a matter of kind of like informational meeting. This is what it is. This is a possibility for our county. You know, after you've looked at it, if you wanted to maybe give approval or something like that for me to go ahead and contact the sheriff's department to see if they want to engage with this. I actually plan on engaging other counties and other sheriff's offices to see if there's any interest as well. I don't really see any reason why Indiana statewide shouldn't go towards this model. I think with the new administration coming in at a federal level, especially with Tom Homan, if you've watched any of his interviews lately, you kind of understand what his angle is. I think that he's extremely interested in this kind of program. I think this will be a lot more funded going forward and utilized going forward in order to take care of some of the issues this country has. So, but again, you're my first point of contact. I thought that was maybe more appropriate just to make it like a public thing. This is something that I think that members of the county should at least investigate. And again, if they're interested in, you know, having these sort of additional helps where ICE is assisted in our county, if that ever becomes a problem. If it is a problem now, I don't know. I don't think necessarily. But again, if these options are here for us to be able to have, you know, a stricter policy going forward to, again, protect communities from illegal immigration. So,
Sounds like, I appreciate the information, pretty good information. Probably best to also take it to the local sheriff's department or local prosecutor. Would you not say, John Spur, that that's
Yeah.
what that needs to really?
I'm gonna send you guys a link to some more information about the program, but yeah, that would be a good starting point.
like I
Maybe
said, just going forward, again, you advise, you know, me about what you'd like me to do, or if you want to forward information, or if you want to share it with fellow commissioners. I don't know. Again, I knew nothing about this whatsoever, other than, you know, just the internet research I did last week, where I was kind of surprised this is available. And again, something that's encouraged. I think that part of one of the initial handouts that I've given you speaks about there were some changes to the program as far as how much oversight and whatnot, but there was a 2021 Government Accountability Office report that said that ICE was not considering that this should be used optimally, like where it's best to be served throughout the United States, but they wanted to focus on signing as many agreements as possible regardless of the benefits. So ICE's determination in this, and I'm sure that's only going to get stronger going forward, is we want this everywhere. And I could very well see it being reinforced from, you know, the executive branch, from the border czar going forward, that this is something that all counties should actually engage in.
This is a federal program, right?
Yep, correct.
From what I read in the, at least in our packet, with what this, it's actually a cost to the counties.
Potentially. So
That wasn't fully, whether it was funded or not, the counties were still a cost item to the counties. When it
I'm
was,
sure it would have some additional costs. So yeah, I don't doubt it. But
and reimbursement wasn't necessarily forthcoming.
right, and I think especially under previous administrations, maybe that's part of the reason why it wasn't as emphasized. So I think that there's not as much motion in that area.
And I agree with Tim, as I think this is something that goes in front of the sheriff's department to be discussed with him, and it's going to be his program basically that, in his recommendation for funding, initiated in order to maintain it for that matter. I did talk with him about what he thought that we had as far as illegal immigrants in the county, and he wasn't aware that we have any that reside in the county. That the county's issues typically transient, coming across the county, going from north to south or south to north for that matter.
Right.
That we didn't necessarily have that problem here. Not that they don't run into it on the 63 or whatever other transportation through the Nate. What's with Logansport? I didn't hear about that one.
So to my understanding, it was similar to what happened in Springfield, Ohio. Became much more famous after the presidential debate, but I think it was something like 5,000 they were Haitian immigrants that were basically just bussed into the county, and they had been utilizing the CBP One app to obtain like a transitory status, or a status where you're basically, it's not quite a refugee status, but I mean you're illegally here, but you're under the protection of the government via this status that you enter into that app. So, but it's overwhelmed their school systems, it's overwhelmed their healthcare systems. It's become an immense issue for that smaller town. So again, I don't know I don't know if they had any issues with that sort of thing before that, but again, with this new notion of just busing people and dropping them off in the middle of counties, I mean, I prefer, obviously, as a citizen, to have some kind of strong protocol in place if that were to happen, versus trying to scramble and catch up, which is what Logansport's doing at this point.
John Spur, does our jail have the rating or the approval for hold ICE?
I don't know, that would be a question for the sheriff and the jail commander.
I know some jails have made money off of that, holding the federal prisoners. Is there a higher pay for holding?
Yeah, it's more money, but it's also, the facilities have to be enhanced to be able to do that. Off the top of my head, I just don't know. So.
You know if our jail is set up that way, Brett?
Yeah.
For federal approval?
I do not know. We did discuss that, but it's been a couple of years since we discussed that, so we'd have to go back and revisit that.
Right, a lot of the nuts and bolts, I mean, really are gonna be left up to the sheriff's office once they if they choose to contact ICE to go forward with this. I'm sure that they'll give the feedback and necessary parameters and things like that going forward. And again, something as a concerned citizen, someone that's been very active, I think, trying to help with this illegal immigration issue. I mean, whatever the numbers are that we have to deal with now going forward, 20 million, something like that are in illegally here, that again is something that our county could maybe take initiative on, and again help spread the idea. If it's ICE's desire that this be something enacted in all counties, again, it has to start somewhere.
I don't know that we have any opposition to legislation, but really this does fall within the sheriff and the prosecutor's realm to decide whether they would actually administer this type of program or not.
Right. Like
And
I
then
said,
also the council would have to weigh in as far as budget, because I'm pretty sure we don't have a budget for this type of program going into 25 anyway.
right. So again, my intent was just informational, you know, and then discussion, and then just kind of make it again public aware that this is the 287 program. The 287G program exists, and you know potentially could benefit from public support.
I do agree that there probably ought to be a program or I guess a plan, if you would, if we would become embroiled into something like this, so that we're not doing it after the fact. That might be something that our emergency management might be able to look into a little bit.
From the back room.
No, I'm just saying, not that you have to develop the plan, but how we might come about formulating a plan if we need one, on how we would house, how we would incarcerate if it's incarceration, how we would police, how we would manage, how we would feed, how we would whatever.
I believe in this area, if you have an ICE prisoner or person in custody, they go to Putnam County ICE facility, I believe. I don't know that they would spread them around in different counties.
Well, I'm not so sure that all these would be incarcerated anyway. I doubt Putnam County could handle 5,000 new people, but
And the other thing to point out too is the 287G program used to have a task force model where local law enforcement was actually enabled to have traffic stops and investigate, you know, immigration status and things like that. The current model is only jail based, so it's only criminals that, you know, are able to be investigated by the local law enforcement. So
I guess
I mean, criminals in obviously the strict sense, they're criminals if they come into our country illegally, but criminals that are, you know, some other infraction that they're in jail
I understand.
for. So.
I think it gets back to the other aspect of it as well. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know that we have a plan if we would be put into a spot like Logansport, or or like Terre Haute. Outside, we don't have a bus station here. Maybe that's a plus.
I mean, we have a truck stop or two, so it's again, I don't know the model. I don't know what protocol the SAFE follow when they do that sort of thing. I don't know who. I mean, I know there's several. Right now, the Attorney General is investigating Logansport to see what exactly happened, but how that comes
Indiana
about.
does participate in some of those programs. Wasn't because of recent, but in programs previous to this with different countries, I guess. So we've signed on, or the state has signed on to those.
Right.
But that's not what this is, I don't believe.
No, this seems like it's targeted in some ways. So.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You got to go to the sheriff and prosecutor next?
Yeah, I think so. That's something you recommend.
Moving on, 2025 holiday calendar schedule approval. Any change on that from last year?
I don't know, Kylie did it, so I haven't had a chance to look at it.
I don't believe there was, except that the county is only off on the one holiday, I guess you can call it, Newport's. since the Board of Health moved.
Yeah, and that was this year as well.
Anybody make a motion to approve the holiday calendar for 2025?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 holiday calendar as presented.
And I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
2025 Commissioner meeting approval, times and dates. A little bit of history about the meetings. In the past, I have to go back and think, it's probably 4 years ago. 4 years ago, we changed the meeting times and dates. All three commissioners looked at it as a way to make people accessible to government. I think it's very important that we serve the people and not the people. The people should have we should have our meetings so people can come to them. If we make it to where it's hard for people to come to meetings, I think it's very, very bad government. We all three commissioners approved this same schedule 4 years ago because the previous commissioners had all morning meetings. And when you have all morning meetings, it's really inconvenience to a lot of people that work during the day and they get home late, they can't come. And so I think what we did in the past was best for the community, not best for ourselves. I mean, I don't know if you know, but some mornings I work all night and I'd come here and came here and sat in this chair and slept to make the meeting. So I think it's very important that we keep open communication with the people and make government accessible to the people. And by having a morning meeting, people who can't make it tonight can come in the morning, and those who work regular day job can make it to the evening. So the whole principle is not for us, it's for the people. And I think good government will always work that way. So I think Misty Hess said something she'd have a problem with the schedule on just a previous text. And I'm willing to move it earlier in the morning where it make it easier for her to get to her job and make it more convenient. So I think that without her here today, there's probably, maybe she want to change it and maybe RJ wants to change it differently, but I just wanted to say that in the past, all three commissioners agreed upon this previous schedule that was best for the people. And that's what we work for the people. It's not about our schedule, it's not about that, but it's about the people. So that's all I can say about that.
Until we hear something definitive, I think it's kind of, I mean, we can approve something today. However, with a new commissioner coming in, if she can't make these meetings, they're going to have to be amended in January anyway. So I would prefer if Misty sent a message to you today and said that she couldn't work with a certain time. I think it'd be prudent to at least wait. We have 2 more meetings scheduled this month, actually, if we go through with both them. I'd like to get her opinion on what her schedule looks like for her, because if she can't make meetings, maybe I can, maybe you can. I think it's just kind of preventive to pass this if she can't make these.
So we all agree that the meetings, we should have meetings to make it convenient for people to come. I think that's good government, and the morning meeting and evening meeting turns out good for everybody. And if they also get rid of the morning meeting, it does away with my commissioner's mentoring program, something I worked for the last 6 or 8 years for, and I think that's a very disgraceful if we end up eliminating that program. It's a great program. It put Maine County on the top of one of the top award of the United States for that program, working with youth, and I think it's very important that we maintain that, don't let that go away. So, Rick, your comment at RJ's?
Sam, I don't want to get into a big debate about anything, but I don't think anybody ever said anything about killing a commissioner's mentoring program. I don't think anybody said that. 4 years ago, we did make a meeting morning and evening. But Tim, does this meeting schedule not fit your work schedule perfectly?
And if I have to miss a meeting, I'll miss work. I'll take time off. I've done it before.
Okay. I would just again would like to wait to hear from Misty before we set the schedule, so we don't have to.
Your statutory deadline is the first meeting in February.
To set it?
Yeah, you've got time to figure this out.
And I think the public, I put it out for the public comment. I like to have a public comment that the 2 meetings make it the best schedule. I think the people's voice is important at all times. And if people want this schedule and they want a morning meeting, evening meeting, I think we need to listen to people. They represent us or the voters. And I'll rely on the feedback from them, and I'll have some of that to be presented at the next meeting. So,
Does our current schedule go into February, or at least through January? I mean,
No.
it stops on December 31st.
And this is the same, and Kylie and I discussed this because of the change. We were just trying to make it easier
yeah.
for the new auditor, so that's just one less thing that he would have to do when he comes in. But the only change is from 9:30 to 8:30, which is where it used to be. And then
Well,
over the last couple of years, we moved it back to 9:30. So this is actually back to like the original schedule when I took office.
and you say you already talked to Misty about this
She sent me a
schedule?
thing this morning. RJ started a text between her and I and Kylie.
Well,
She told me that
Kylie and Brenda started the text.
yes,
I didn't,
yes.
but
We're trying to get, we're
That's
trying to
fine.
be proactive.
I appreciate that.
And
So,
she talked to me and she was in agreement with the 8:30. So, but if you wanna take
She
it
just
till
sent me
the
a
next
text just a
meeting,
while ago and said she can't do it. So
that's
I-
9:30, it said 9:30.
I said, I looked at 8. I have no problem with 8.
I just haven't seen anything definitive in writing from her,
That's fine.
and that's where I'm at.
We can move it to the next meeting.
one thing if we don't, I guess next meeting anyway, by next meeting, if we don't have a schedule, we should at least schedule through January, since we don't have a regular scheduled.
Yeah, I value, Misty's, she needs to say her part and put it on record where she stands and what she wants, and RJ and I, and then let the people know where we all stand, and then go from there. But I still say good government is good government is working with the people, making it accessible to the people.
Again, I'll suggest that we just, at least if we don't have it, approve at least one meeting into January for a regular scheduled meeting anyway.
Okay.
Alright.
If we can't have it by next meeting.
Got it.
Okay.
Good. Looking forward, I will have to request, one of us need to request a statement from Misty Hess for next meeting, what she stands on this, so we have it in writing. Okay. Open issues, approval of amended fee for schedule for violation amendment. I think the Board of Health has done what they need to do, and I have no problem with what they've done, and I think we need to support it and move on. Unless you guys got something big that stands out to you and you don't like or something.
I don't have any questions. Britt, do you have any?
The only thing, yes, I do. One is these are set fees. There's no latitude to go up to whatever the value is. So these are, if you have a particular violation, it is what it says here. It's not instead of 1,000, it's 800 or whatever the case may be.
It's
So,
$1,000, isn't it?
huh?
I thought $6,000.
Well, it varies depending on what the infraction is. But what I'm saying is that if there's really no latitude, if there's a 1-day violation and it was for cause, but there was still a violation, it's $1,000. So you go 2 days, I assume it's $2,000. So that's, for most people and most businesses, that's a significant number. Not that violations are warranted, but there also is no latitude apparently here if there's circumstances beyond control. So the only thing I would say is maybe with the addition of up to or not to exceed or whatever the case may be. That's a comment anyway.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you guys want to approve this that way, I wouldn't oppose it, I guess.
Yeah, I think they just copied, because I know like the restaurant fees, and I think they're the same way. I don't think it says up to either. I think it's a flat, like, you.
Set fee.
I think it's
or
just
set penalty.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. I don't know that it's, well, I don't know that it's $1,000, but I think it's the same concept.
A violation fine, that means if you have a violation, I take it that if you have a violation, it's $1,000, regardless of the type of infraction, whether it was because you dropped an eyelash or it's because you actually, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, there's some, violation repeat inspection fee, $75.
well, but if you have a violation, apparently you're going to have $1,000 fine. Maybe it's warranted, I don't know.
I think, when I look at this, if it's to do with the health and people's eyes and things, I think it's a very, very serious thing, and it shouldn't be bringing some immediacy in there. Talking about health issues facing someone's eyes, it needs to be severe, and it needs to be corrected immediately, in my opinion.
Okay, they make a motion accordingly.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended fee schedule with the eyelash amendment presented by the health department.
Second. Discussion. I appreciate what the health department does. I mean, I understand some discrepancy there or some question, which is good, which I think we could send a letter to them and more clarification if that needs to be done. But call for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Rick, did I hear you?
you did.
Okay. Move on. Emmons facility point person. I've been working on that, and Rick won't be here after the first year, and I've been involved in this for 2 years, I think, in this process, so I'd like to continue to take care of that. We got some different things to discuss today, and I'd like to have Mark O'Hara send out a letter. If he could come up, he is part of the Emmons committee. I do appreciate committees. I think in government, representing government is good only that those committees working for you and people you appoint to those that have the expertise that we don't have. So I value your committee, and if you could read that letter. Anything you have to say?
We were asked to give input on the new set of drawings that were sent out on the 19th of November. The committee, which is Rick Weir, Neil Costello, Brent Lewis, and myself, all reviewed those drawings. And we wrote this letter in response. After review, the current set of drawings design and development drawings from Architectura dated 11/19/2024. It is a recommendation of the Vermillion County Ambulance Committee that the drawings be let for bids as soon as possible, with one correction. The well water in that area is known to be high in nitrates, rendering it non-potable. Architectura is making changes to connect to the existing water supply from the town of Cayuga to correct this issue. The committee is aware that there will be a substantial increase in the funding allowed by OCRA for grants to build this type of facility. And after discussion with Christy Gerald Consulting, it is our recommendation that we apply for the OCRA grant to fund the second facility, which will be located in the Clinton Fairview Park area, and use county funding to build the first facility at the North Vermillion School Corporation property. With that in mind, the committee recommends that we finalize acquisition of the North Vermillion School Corporation property as soon as possible. The committee recognizes that there are many different types of structures and areas in the county that these structures can be located in. Our direction was to look at the needs of the citizens of the county with respect to response times, population centers, and future growth, and we base our recommendation on these directions, respectfully.
And who else on that committee that endorsed that?
Say again?
Who all on the committee that endorsed that?
Rick Weir, Neil Costello, Brent Lewis, and myself.
Did the other ones endorse that too?
That's the committee. Those 4 people are the only people left on the committee.
Kevin Wickens.
Kevin Wickens dropped out about 2 years ago.
Yeah, but what about up north? Fire department, what's his name?
Brent Lewis. Brent
Is he
Lewis.
on there too?
Yes, Brent Lewis, Neil Costello, Rick Weir, and myself.
Okay, that's the one names I need.
Yeah. And it's on the letter. That's
People
on
know who they came from.
Yeah. And that really hasn't changed except for that there's a new set of drawings.
The prints are out, and the prints also, someone on the council wanted 2 ways with metal or with a home construction, so it can be bid both ways.
Right, and now we will, we've been going back and forth on these values. Is this $1 million building? Is this a $600,000 building? Or is it a $100,000 building? Now we can send this out to contractors, and when they come back and, if every one of them says it's a $300,000 building or a $200,000 building, or they're all in that same range, then we know that that's an accurate value. What we've been going on is contractors who have built these facilities saying that the average cost is between $230 and $250 a square foot. And that's what we've been
And how many
sticking
square feet are in that building?
I believe the new drawing's about 2,300, 20,
Something like that, yeah.
23, 26, something like that. Off the top of my head, I don't remember.
What'd you say it was, a square foot?
About 230, 235 is what most of the stuff's been coming in recently.
It's 587,000. The question I have, Brett can clarify this. What is a standard procedure? Because I think all the problem we have here is about funding. It's not about location, it's about funding. And so, in your past, you bid out a project. Did you already have the funding? Did the people already agree to have funding in place for X amount of dollars, or you just bid it out and then you went back to the people and said, this is what it costs? You know what I'm saying? I mean, how did that work in projects you worked? Was the funding already there and you knew it was there before you bid a project?
Yes. Almost every time the budget's already been established as to what you're allowed to do or what we were going to do, and that's all mostly private, on the private sector side though.
But when you bid it,
Well, actually, it's public too. We have an engineer's estimate, and off that engineer's estimate is what has been budgeted. And from that budget, then you go out, and if it exceeds, in a public realm, if it exceeds 10%, then you have to go out for bid again.
if it exceeds.
What we did, if it varies by more than 10%. So if you have $1 million project, if it went over $1,100,000, then you would have to go back out for bid because your estimate was in error, too far in error.
And the estimate being
it
the
was less-
engineer's estimate, not a contractor, not a.
It was the engineer's estimate is
Right.
what it's based on.
Right.
Private industry allocates money also, usually based on engineer's estimates. Sometimes it's just by golly, this is what we have, and they go out with that, but that's private. But typically they have a budgetary number also, and they just don't go out and go for bid and then say, okay, now we'll fund it. Typically they have a value in mind.
So my question is, if we would bid this out, and engineers, I think that we hire people to bring information to us, professional people, and then we debate the information that comes from these professional people. And I mean, you either professional or not professional, you accept them or you don't accept them. But my question is when this comes in, say it comes in, and can we, if the council says that we're not gonna fund it because it's too much money, are we gonna be in any issue with bidding it out and not the funding out there? That's my question.
There's not an issue, it's just the reputation of the county to go out for bids to subsidize or to substantiate things is harmed. If you do it enough times, people will just, it costs money for people to put these together. This is not a free service. It's a cost to the companies that put these things together, and if they win it, then they are obliged to perform. And to go out fishing, which is kind of what I believe this has been, is a fishing expedition as to, okay, now we know what the bidding is, now we'll see if we want to fund it or not. Well, that's not it's inappropriate, it's not professional, and it's unbecoming of the county.
And if you're wanting to go for a grant, you can't bid this thing until you get the grant. So, yeah.
There's a whole host of things there, but
Well,
it's
that
just
would be
not,
with
it's
this-
not,
With us building the first building, if they're gonna build out of that county funding,
First building is great, but the second building, you have to wait till.
and that would allow them to have a good hold on what the second building would
Yeah.
cost, because it's gonna be
I'm
something
just-
different.
we have another issue in that the property is not acquired yet either. Can go out for bid and not have the property actually under control, or I don't know that it has to be signed, sealed, delivered, but it has to have pretty close to that anyway. And
That's
best
the-
that it is controlled.
The recommendation is, the next step is to get that property.
But to
Right.
bid
North Vermillion
before
property.
you have the property in hand, or at least have a 99.9% chance knowing that you've got the property. In other words, it's just a formality at that point. The bid before that is not appropriate either.
But we're there anyway.
We do,
had a signing, right? I mean, and if I know you're busy and you're coming in your tournaments, that's something, you know, we go ahead and proceed with that. I'm just saying, it's up to you. you know, you've been through this all the time. I'm just saying, that as far as I know, we're ready to do something with securing that property, just from the.
We have an agreement. I don't know, John sent that out last week, with,
I sent out a rough draft.
yeah, that's not been approved by anybody, including North Vermillion School Corporation, as far as I know. I've not heard from them anyway.
Has that been sent to North Carolina School Corporation also?
No, I sent you guys.
Okay,
So-
so it's here in our court now, we need a determination if we need to send it to them for approval. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I sent
So there's where we're at.
You guys start looking at.
I'm sorry?
He said it has been sent to us for approval and then be forwarded to the school corporation, so it's in our.
Yes, and unfortunately, I missed it, I guess, if it was, John
Can we
sent it
put-
last week, but did you guys review it?
I
Did you
missed
see
it.
it?
I have not reviewed it, no.
I missed it too. I'm sorry, I could.
I can resend it if you want.
Yeah, resend it.
I'll do that.
So can we put that on the agenda, moving this thing forward, can we put it on the agenda for the next meeting, for that to be approved?
Sure.
Okay.
It-
I mean, it's just move the process forward.
That's the recommendation, is to get that property.
One of the things I'm trying to figure out, and Christie can help me out on this, but I've got a lot of questions. I'll wait till you get asked all those questions about that, but I appreciate what you guys have done. I do think that, and the location at North Vermillion, the Emirates Committee says that is the right for response time and everything, that's important that it stays there and is put there at the North Vermillion High School, correct?
Perrysville location is a good location, but it's added response time to the middle of the county. It's obviously added response time to Cayuga because they were in Cayuga before, and that's a population center.
Question, I know I've asked this, I can't say I got a satisfactory answer from the committee when I've been to a couple of their meetings anyway. Why would we not wait? Perrysville's a forever thing. I mean, there's no terminal date for the ambulance service to be there, not that.
Jody Hauser.
Sorry. There's no terminal date to move from Perrysville. Why would we not seek funding, RDA funding, regardless of whether it's Okra or not? There are other funding mechanisms available, possible relationships with trustees and so forth. Why does the committee believe that we need to move forward and pay for this in its entirety out of county funds?
I think it's due to the delay of waiting on the grant. I think if we apply for the grant, and the deadline is sometime in June of next summer, right? Before we would be eligible for the funding, or we'd even know we got the funding, probably be November timeframe.
August. But
August.
there's so much, and I'll get up and speak, but there's so much to do. And I'm not sure we can make a June round. We'll have to see, depending on how fast we can move. But I can't move on anything without the council actually approving money. So I feel like we're kind of like putting the cart before the horse.
Well, we're not. The commission, the council already approved money for you to start your thing a month ago. But
Okay.
that's not here or there. That wasn't for this facility. That was for the second facility. That's really
Right.
what that was.
Well, they also are gonna have to approve the local match for the project.
Yeah.
I don't want you guys to spend money with me doing activities without the council actually approving the money for the match, because if they don't approve that, then you're wasting money with me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm taking Okra out of the picture. That was my premise at the very beginning here. Take Okra out of the picture. So that means you're out of the picture for this first facility. We won't make, the chances of us making this in the next year are not reasonable. But there are other funding mechanisms, RDA, loans, et cetera.
So RD, you have to have a full-blown USDA Rural Development PER, so your architect will actually you'll spend more money with your architect to actually go for RD, because you'll have to have a full-blown PER, or PAR, preliminary architectural report, so you're probably looking at another 20,000 with your architect, just so he can format it into USDA for them to even consider you for a loan.
That's fine. So we have additional money. Sure, there'll be more money spent, but it's still less than the total amount of what I anticipate to be $750,000 for this facility, if we go with where we're at. Back to the question, why are we not looking for additional funding and/or relationships with a trustee or whatever in order to make these things work? Trustees have monies accessible to them, and we can't have interlocal agreements on those type things. So a different potential avenue. Okay, take that out of the picture if you're going to frown at it.
No,
Why are
just
we not
trying to think
looking
of
for
what-
additional
what-
different
like,
funding?
What amount that the trustee might have, because I do know there's some accounts that have a few $100,000 on maybe. but-
Because there's 90% financing for government type buildings, if they loans and so forth, and grants, and the RDA grants can come through them as well, and there's additional monies available to them that are not available to counties. That's just one mechanism. Let's take, why are we not looking for monies to help support this?
The input I've gotten is that they just want to use the county, the ARPA money, or I forget what we're even calling it nowadays.
Yeah, I understand.
ARP.
Yeah, they want to just use that money and do this first building. And when we had talked in Dana the one night, you had said that if we were actively pursuing one building and we had a need for the two, that we would be more favorable when we applied for the second. Our second building would have more square footage because that would be the office facility and have a small training area that could be used to teach CPR or whatever. And again, that's why we're not using all these other grants or talking to some bank. That's just was not part of what we were looking at.
Okay.
Okay,
You
so
answered the
I mean,
question.
if those things exist and we can do that, fine. I mean, they're not hooked that it has to be money that came from the ARP funding. They're just saying that they don't want to be working on a grant procedure that may or may not be a year or 2 years out and put this off that much further.
I mean, I could make a phone call to USDA Rural Development. Sometimes they do a grant loan option, and maybe for your first building, you know, and I could see what that percentage is. I don't know, it might be 5%, might be 10, I don't know. I mean, I could place that call today and find out real quick on that.
It's not
Coming back to
necessary.
that point, I was in DC, I got the information from SDA. In the last about 6 weeks, we've been trying to chase them down. I finally got a call back the other day from them. Again, what Brittany says makes total sense. These townships have funding, and there's certain stipulation that they're less than 5,000. That all wrote out in our county, our townships actually are within that scope of that funding. It reduces it. It starts out at 90-10, I believe it was, and it reduces it down to 50-50. There's different criteria. So I'm in the middle of talking to these people. I mean, we chase people. And I finally sent a letter, and I'm tired of it. They finally responded. So I have 3 different numbers, 3 different people in contact. One's in Lafayette, I think. One's in
Did you call John
Indiana.
McGee?
Huh?
Did you call a gentleman named John McGee? Out of
I don't
Lafayette?
know these names.
Okay,
But
I've got his cell, I can call.
But we're looking at some other things to do with townships too, funding, so that was not one, but those 2. So I'll get information on that too, but my question is, the situation we exist is we have people looking at cost, believing it is the real cost, and it is or it isn't. And so some people are saying, we're debating cost. And we have professional people looking into it, and it'd be what it would be, but we're going to sign an agreement with Clinton City for 10 years for the South office. If you do sensible discussion about cost, Clinton City's charging us $1,500 a month. Is that good for 10 years, Brett, or is there a clause in there to raise it?
There's no escalation clause, but it would be prudent
Right.
that if their costs go up, that our costs would go up as well then.
So right now, we're looking at a facility that's costing us $1,500 a month. That's including utilities. And if you back out the utilities and the extra costs we've been paying, you're getting down to $1,000 a month for a fully furnished building for the ambulance facility. That cost is, if you want to debate, you can, but you can't get no cheaper than that. Unless the lowest value is dirt bottom. So the way I look at this is, and what makes sense is the council saying, well, we want to spend $300,000 for a building going north. why do you want to spend $300,000, even if it's that small, which I doubt it will be, probably a 400 or 500? Why would you spend $300,000 or $400,000 when waiting a couple months or maybe a year? And with a 90-10 grant, you're going to put 10% of that. So at $300,000 is $30,000. $750,000 is $75,000. That is your cost. Why would you go spend $300,000 because you're in a hurry? I mean, if we want to run government, why don't we run it financially the way it should be?
This is their recommendation, so it really does come back to the commissioners, though.
Yeah.
We have a recommendation. We also understand that the council is only allocating $300,000 to this project so far, or verbally, and they haven't even done that. To go out for, back to where we were going, I think, with bids on this, was the original discussion,
Right.
is that I don't think we're ready to go out for bids. We have other issues with maybe the bids being the timing of them. We have an issue that we have not acquired the property yet, though it's
That'd be resolved.
imminent. It will probably happen, but it's still, the agreement has not been reviewed by the commissioners, nor has it been given to North Vermillion for their approval. Until we have those things tied up, I don't think it's prudent to go out. The other thing is that to think that we have the funding, we don't have the funding. To be 10% over 300,000 is what, 330,000?
30,000.
Yeah. So it's, the thing is that we don't have the funding. We already have an engineer's estimate, over $700,000. It doesn't appear that it's going to be any less than that. We have no reason to believe it's going to be any less than that. I don't know why council thinks it is, but we don't have a project yet, is what I'm saying. The other thing is last meeting, RJ said something to the effect that you weren't in favor of this, or in some way or another because of Perrysville or something. It was an incomplete thought or incomplete statement. Was there something there or something?
I think I've probably stated everything I've wanted to say on the ambulance facility over the last few months, but to tie it all together, I guess you could say that I'm not in favor of proceeding with, two facilities when we've got agreements from Perrysville and Clinton. And this isn't nothing against the ambulance facility. You guys were given a task, and I think you guys exceeded that task and done it well. But I do think if we're wanting to spend money, like I've said in the past, I do think the big picture needs looked at again. And even when, Eric Shaughnessy was here, and you can talk to anybody, I think 3 stations or 2 ambulances and 1 up north is needed. I think with the potential development of the I-74 corridor, I think that station needs to stay up north. And, I live in Cayuga, I live in Eugene. And I've said the whole time, I think this project has been kind of rushed a little bit as of late. I mean, as we're talking here today, we're not going to be ready. We don't have no agreement with North Vermillion. I mean, we don't have funding from the council secured at all. So yeah, I do think it just needs to wait, but that's where I'm at, and that's where I'll continue to be until after the first of the year.
What changes at the first of the year?
Well, I'd like to hear where Misty lands on a lot of this, and I think the council would probably like to hear the same. I don't think you want to dive into committing to a bunch of money in December to where come January, February, things could change.
Again, okay. Yeah.
Again, we were asked
Thank
for a
you.
recommendation.
Yeah.
This is our recommendation. We have I don't have a checkbook. I can't do this. My crayon won't draw a better picture than these architects have. So we
Yeah,
wrote
thank
our
you.
recommendation, and that's what you guys have.
I think we can move on here. We're not ready to go out today anyway.
No,
And I don't know, we'll be in 2 weeks, but I'm not ready to.
so where we're at right now is, you made your presentation, we heard what you had to say, we appreciate it. We're making putting on the agenda for next meeting for securing the property. We'll vote on securing that property. We'll send a letter to them. That's our next step. That's where we're at right now.
And this same letter went to all the council members, so
Did you get any feedback from you?
I haven't gotten feedback from anybody until today. We didn't send this out till Friday, so.
Okay. Very good.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for all you do.
Thank you, Mark.
With regard to Okra, council did approve monies if to start that back in October, I think it was even, to start the Okra grant for the second facility, but it's probably not prudent. We didn't start.
Yeah.
And so the chances of us making a June delivery date on the application, I don't think is necessarily reasonable without extraordinary efforts.
Yeah, so I passed out a handout. If you could turn to page 2, I did speak yesterday with Michael Conley, the architect. He's saying for the Okra portion, if you guys wanted to pursue that, he has estimated that construction at $700,000. That does have about a 10% contingency in there, okay? His fees, you guys have already signed a contract for that specific, and $75,000. He's an additional $15,000 for construction observation and inspection. Then my fees are $60 plus $5 for labor standard and $5 for environmental review. So pretty much, we'll go over upfront costs here in a second, but you're gonna have to put in about $20,000 even to get to the application, with your architect's $15,000 additional in fees and $15,000 for construction. You're looking at having to put in about $50,000 to this project, okay? When they say free money, there's not a lot of free money, but because there's so much more to do with the applications. But this program actually used to be only $500,000 in grant. They've increased that grant amount to $750,000, which is great, because now we have what's called BABA, Buy American, Build American. So it's putting on a lot of different stipulations, which is increasing prices when you go out to bid and things like that. There's 2 grant rounds you can try to go for. I'm not sure we'd be ready for the round 1, just because right now when I look at census data, the county isn't meeting the 51% mark for us to be able to apply. So you're at 40.80% with a 4.5 margin of error. So that's
Can you
putting,
explain that a little bit, that, is that a?
yes, so in
certain
order
rate of
to,
income?
this is federal grant dollars from Housing and Urban Development, and they set the standards. So in order to apply for these programs, you have to meet a national objective. And so first we look at your census data. If you're 51% or higher, you automatically qualify. But because the new census data that's come out, we don't qualify. So that means we would have to do an income survey. That's kind of up in the air too, because we would actually have to request permission to conduct. And that's a letter that I put together with all kinds of statistics and data. Okra's been turning a lot of people down, so I don't know. We just have to see if they would approve us. And so if they do approve us to do that, you know, we're looking at probably, it would be a full county income survey. So you're looking about 3 to 4 months to get that completed in itself. Because federal dollars would touch my fees on the project, we would have to do grant administration, which is about a 30-day process. We'd have to do a request for proposals, and then we have environmental review, which is about a 90-day process. We can't really do an environmental review until you actually have signed a long-term, are we talking about a 99-year lease agreement is what you were thinking of on that property?
Yes.
Okay, and so once that's obtained, then we can actually do the environmental review. Because this is non-disturbed ground, we're going to make it so where we might not have to do an archaeological dig, but it is not disturbed. I mean, I believe is there a sewer line over in that area or anything? So
They're not sewer in that sense. It's a private sewer.
okay, so it just depends on what the state, once we put the review in, they might require a dig, which is probably $2,000 to $3,000 on that property. About, what is it, about 2 acres? Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's kind of up in the air. So technically, you know, with everything that you've got to do to get to application, I'm not sure we could meet that June deadline, because we don't have the council's approval for the local match for the project. That's the only thing. I know that they've approved my fees, but I don't want to move forward like we did with the stormwater. We kind of moved forward. You guys paid me the environmental. We, you know, started that, and then it went nowhere. And so that $5,000 kind of went out there. So I don't want to do that on this project. I'd rather have council approval. The match is already set, and with a new commissioner coming in, and also council, like I would need to come in front of the council too. So we can get their support.
My question, our question is about funding and the cost, you know, how much it's going to cost. And we have council here that's got a set amount in their mind, what it is, and we have engineers saying X amount. And so how do we resolve this without bidding it out? I mean, how do we?
Well, you can't bid it out until you get the grant.
I'm just saying, how I'm trying to get the council on
Right.
board. approve something, and they say they ain't gonna approve anything till it's just
Right.
cost, I'm thinking, you got me in a
Well,
limit.
So, you know, that'd be a conversation I probably need to come with you guys to the council, to one of their meetings, because this is what's called preliminary engineering. So he can only preliminary cost it. Things are coming in so overbid right now, especially on buildings, depending on if you have steel, it's really gonna be more costly than what this is on paper, so I would highly suggest no steel, but there's a lot of other things that come into play. If we do a grant, we will have to get a state design release permit, so we've got to make sure that that's all done. But it's really just going in front of the council and giving them, you know, the information, and then they have to make that
I think
decision.
the true statement is, people do not realize cost today. Now,
It's true.
I just built a new house,
Yeah,
and I sold it, okay, and I got real good price. Everybody's saying, well, no way. If you're out of the real estate market, or you're out of the true cost of what's going on in our country for 2 years, you have no idea what it costs.
yeah.
Would you say it's a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. I mean, you know, I've been doing this for 16 years, and bidding, and, you know, Britton, you know, you can have preliminary engineering, and then when you bid it, it could be a year or two later, and your cost could be increasing. And construction right now is not going down, it's going up. So, you know, you got to hire that good architect or engineer to give you good preliminary engineering, good estimates, and then pray once you go into bidding.
I
It's
think that
just
the quote that I got from him, sort of 25% per year, almost roughly.
probably did. Yep. So, I mean, there's always an option where you could scale down on the building too.
I think we got our box.
Yeah. So,
It's about half the size of the.
yeah, I do remember you guys saying that. No, keep in mind, like if we were to go into June, we wouldn't find out till August. We probably, you know, wouldn't be bidding until probably February or March.
Why does it take so long after you get after that to go?
Well,
4 or
because-
5 months before you can even get that?
Well, because, you know, it's state government, I think, and federal government. I mean, you have to actually get the grant agreement signed. So they announce at the end of August. Grant agreement takes about a month and a half to get developed, sent to you, then your signature, and then it goes back to state and gets signatures there. We actually cannot, we have to put in a combined notice, which is a finding of no significant impact. That takes about a month and a half, 2 months, and we cannot bid that project until we get environmental release. So, you know, I mean, earliest I think we could bid would probably be December. If we went into the June round, maybe January.
Probably minimum a year out.
Yeah, and see, that's what it is. You know, you've got your cost estimates now. We don't know what it's going to be. You know, this is just preliminary, so we don't know how the bidding is going to come in. That's why you got to make sure you get the good architect or engineer.
Back to one thing you said, the income study survey that we talked about previously, 90-10, that was basically within that 51%.
Well, public facilities, this grant program is actually, they offer 750 maximum grant amount. Your minimum match is 10% of your total project cost, but you're going to be over that because of construction and non-construction. Your construction costs total $700,000. Then you've got your non-construction costs, so your total project cost is $860,000 as of right now. So the minimum amount you would have to put in is $86,000, but you know, your non-construction, we can't cut our fees. So you see what I'm saying? Those two added together, it's 10% of your total project cost.
It'll be more than 86,000.
Right, it's 110,000 that you're gonna have to put in.
Okay.
Yeah,
10% plus the overage.
But you've already committed 75,000 to your architect and signed a contract. So that's part of that. So technically, you know, with the upfront costs that you still got to do, and then adding, you're needing to put in about 50,000 more.
But if you had a $750,000 project, all included, okay?
Are you talking about construction and non-construction? Okay.
If you have a $750,000 project, the engineering fees that we've got paid in will take care of the 10% for a $750,000 bill.
Well,
Because they can use that, right?
yeah, I mean, if you want to do what you're talking, you're going to have to cut down your building even further because you can't cut non-construction fees. You're going to have to cut down the price of the $700,000 building.
And I think most people think that price is going to come down considerably. I mean, they think that.
Oh, it don't ever come down. It'll go up.
I know, but I'm just saying what I'm hearing from the other side, that we're trying to negotiate and make this work.
Yeah. It's really a game you got to play when you go to apply for a grant, you know. you've got your preliminary estimates with contingency in there, you,
My question, I didn't quite get it out.
okay,
The income survey,
mm-hmm.
right now, with we not qualifying for the 51%, does that make a difference in the percentage that we're
No.
required to put that out?
No, you still have to put in at least 10% or
So, I
more.
mean, but it don't go up
Income
because,
survey, just, it will qualify us to apply for the grant. It has nothing to do with your match.
So if we're not at 51%, then that makes us lower.
We'll definitely be at 51% if we do an income survey. Last time we did one was for your comprehensive plan that we did for the grant program. And it was completed on July the 27th of 24, which is now expired because it's only good for 5 years. And you guys qualified at 61.46%, which is well over the 51%. So you definitely would qualify.
Okay, that's,
Yeah, that's
Okay,
not a
okay.
problem. I don't foresee us not qualifying. We've always been able to qualify the county on that. So yeah,
so technically, just basic, if the bid would, if we got this project at $750,000, which your cost, everybody's cost, building all that, the engineering costs alone would take care of the 10% for that grant. I'm saying if a $750,000 is you got all in there, I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying if it was all there, you'd already have your 10% and there would be no cost to the county to put a $750,000.
oh no, it's gonna be some cost to the county because you're gonna have to put in, if you look at the front page here, and I tried to put these costs out for you. You're looking at grant administration procurement, $105 for the request for proposal, legal ad, $49 because you have to mail out to 5. I'm gonna go over the costs. So you have to mail out to 5 firms with 2 being minority. Income survey is going to be $1,000 plus you pay paper postage envelopes, which could be up to $700. I think last time you paid about $500 for the paper postage envelopes. That's been 5 years ago. Application fee, pay you guys in $5,000 environmental. 2 public hearings, $60 a piece for the legal ad. If you have to do archaeological reconnaissance because the state historic preservation might require that, that's $2,000 to $3,000. And then on top of that, because these grants are all about chasing the points, and plus there's going to be a ton of people for public facilities coming in. There was only 2 that applied this round, going in now, but because the grant amounts raised up, it's going to be probably about 10 to 15 coming in. So you're going to have to put in $5,001 into an endowment to get 25 points on the application. And then also 4.1% of your match has to be put into a pass-through account to the community foundation, which we can use as match. That's not a problem. But you're looking at approximately $19,000 to $20,000 upfront cost to even get to the grant application alone. And then an additional probably $10,000.
What I'm saying is, those are all reimbursable costs from the grant, correct?
The only one you can, no.
You can't, what can you use for the 10%? You can use engineering fees, right?
Well, there's no reimbursable, so that's the only thing that Okra will allow you to count towards your local match is the environmental review. That's considered a previously paid match. So that can be counted in for the 10% or over the 10%. They do not allow you to do the income survey counting as match. You do the procurement. They don't allow the environmental archaeological reconnaissance. These are all fees that you just got to put in, and that doesn't include the long-term endowment, $5,001 that you have to put in.
How much you said total is roughly?
Roughly, to get to application alone, is $19,000 to $20,000. Okay, and then if we have costs as we have now, and we don't take those down, you're looking at another, $30,000. So you're looking at about $50,000. Yeah.
And none of that's reimbursable, can't include.
No, because you've got $750,000 grant and your construction alone $700. See what I'm saying? So you only get $750 in grant, and your total project cost right now is $860,000. So
Regardless of what we do, this grant process will cost us $50,000 out of our, right?
Yeah, part of your, you've already paid a lot to your architect already, and his contract was for 75 for this portion of the project, you can count that as previously paid match, which can count towards this. So environmental and architecture.
So it'd be safe to say, with it going to the council, that you're gonna have to come up with $50,000 more above the 10%. And you're gonna have to pay for it to the council, and it's not gonna be reimbursed.
Right. Correct.
Well, that's a different twist.
And this is an all or nothing grant, so we're either gonna get it or we don't. So, I mean, I have a really good track record. I'm almost at 100% funding rate in my 16 years, with only 2 projects having to go in a second time, and they were funded on the second time. So it could be where we don't get I'm just putting it out there. I want to be very transparent. Could be that we don't get it the first time, we'd have to go in a second time. So then costs could raise. So
that $50,000, if you apply for the grant and whether received, that $50,000, what was that, 50,000?
no, that you don't pay anything until we get the grant. See what I'm saying? Like, except for environmental things like that. But the 50,000 that you committed, you would have to do a resolution, you know, committing the local match to the project and where it's actually coming from. And it just sits in your coffers as committed money until we get the grant. Yeah. But I mean, I'd be willing to come to the council if you need me to come talk to them about it, and talk to Michael, your architect, last night, and he said it'd be a good idea for us both to come if you want us to do that. So you can just let me know.
I'm just trying to get all the information out to the airbase so they know
Yeah.
the scope and exactly what it is.
I mean, it's a good opportunity, and it's just, you just never know how the bids are going to come in. That's the problem.
But you'd say percentage-wise, by 98%, or more a chance we would get it?
Oh, if I'm writing it, yeah. I'm just gonna be honest.
I mean, that's important. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
good question. You're gonna be
I
successful.
can get you funded. Yeah.
So the difference in doing these projects, and if you do one project, how long you gotta wait for you to do another project?
Well, in this category, public facilities, we wouldn't have a subrecipient because you guys would, you'll have the lease with the land, and we would have to have that in place before we can move forward with anything environmental, you know, income survey like that. But you wouldn't be, once you get funded, the date of award, you can't apply for public facilities again without a 50-point reduction for 5 years.
50% reduction. So the next, we could do another one within 5 years, we don't want to be 50% funded.
I can't get you funded with a 50-point reduction. There's no way. That's going to be really hard. So you would have to wait 5 years to do another project. Yeah. But, you know, if you had, you know, like we did Hillsdale Water years ago, where the commissioners were the lead applicant and Hillsdale Water was the subrecipient, we could do that because that's a different category. That's water, wastewater. But for public facilities, you'd have to wait 5 years.
But is there any other funding that out there on the federal level that for public facility that we can do within, not have to wait 5 years to do another project?
Yeah, like I said, it's through USDA Rural Development, and I can make that call and find out for you today. Because they start out at a 75% grant, 25% local match, and then they start backing down. There's no way we'll be at a 75%.
But you see that partnership, we could do that with the township, because it's township. You know what I'm saying?
Township trustees don't have a lot of money in their fire coffers, and they've already committed. I mean, it's something to check into. You're probably not looking at a couple $100,000 from them.
Well, could it be a partnership between the county and the township where they would own it, but we would come up with the money to make that happen?
You could always do that if that's what you wanted to do.
I'd like to see that. I mean,
Yeah.
we might have a potential there of saving the county hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like I said, when I talked to them, they act like they could fund that. When I talked to them several months ago.
They could fund $700,000.
No, that they could fund a public building in a township. I mean, like a large percentage.
Okay.
It might be 75% or something. But
I would have Brenda maybe go on Gateway and look up those township trustees' balances, because I think they're probably lower than what you think. They might be. I would look those up.
They'll surprise you, I think, with the bigger ones.
Yeah, I would check that out
I'm just trying to
first.
figure out, and I think we're all in agreement, how do we secure funding
Yeah.
at the smallest amount of money
Mhm.
to get the best product we can get?
Okra is always, it's really your biggest pot in the state to go after. It does have a lot of red hoops, but I do the hoops for you. But it's a great pot of money, and it's a good amount of money
But
for
let me
you.
ask you another question.
Mhm.
You want to build two facilities.
Mhm.
Put two facilities together. You're back to limited to 750, right?
Yeah, you can't do two, because those are two different sites. Yeah, you can't do two. And here's the thing, Okra, this grant is Davis-Bacon wage, so your costs are escalated. If you do one solely with local money, you don't have to pay Davis-Bacon wage on that. So your cost with an Okra
Okay.
project may be double compared to a local project.
Instead of bidding, but we have to bid this out, right? If it's over, what, 250 or
Yeah.
200,000, what is it?
250, I
It's
believe.
250. You have to publicly bid it.
Well, if we can come at 250,000, we wouldn't have to bid it out.
There's no way you can come under 250.
Some people here think we can build them for a lot cheaper, but I'm just trying to get all.
Well, you'd have to
information.
really, like you said, back it down and,
Be using travel trade.
I mean, we could pull a tiny house in here for you. But,
But
yeah,
we can't.
yeah. But no, I think I can get you funded. I just not sure we can make the June deadline. You know, when I met with you guys, I felt like the cart was put before the horse too. I felt like we should have figured out what kind of money we had first and then kind of, but,
I think we tried to do that, but
Yeah.
there's a debate on what that money is.
Yeah.
And no one wants, we came to an agreement with that, so. That's
Yeah.
what they've always said, well, we wouldn't bid it out, we'll find out the true cost, and well,
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair, like Britain said, to bid something out unless you've got the funding there to do it.
yeah,
I
you
mean, so,
can't bid it out. Like Britton said, he's right.
I agree.
You go to bid it out and then, you know, you are wasting everybody's time and then people see the bid and then
Yeah.
as you know, in your experience, people start bidding higher once the bid's released and you got to rebid. I mean, it could come in lower, a lot of times it comes in higher.
Right.
So you really got to be ready when you bid.
Okay, so we go back to this on June the 2nd, it would be kind of hard to do, but maybe possibly, would you say, what's the chance?
I mean, if I can get in to talk with your council and we can come up with an agreement and they're comfortable with moving forward and they can commit some money in January, I can probably get you in round two. I've got 3 on the schedule right now for round 1 and I've got 5 on round 2. So like pretty tight, but
And round 2 is when?
so round 1 would be a end of June application, and then round 2 would be end of December final application. We definitely could get you into round 2.
But if you've got 2 in round 1, you already got 5 in round 2.
Well, if I know I can prepare ahead of time, I can start work. I'm already working on round 1 applications now. I've got 3 applications due this round in 18 days. So, but I've already started working on round 1s. So, because it takes probably about 5-6 months to put your application together. But I would need to get in with your council immediately. And they would need to, because in order to apply to Okra, we have to have what's done called FEEPS. F is your financing. We have to know that it's secure, okay? E is environmental review.
But do they have to agree with the engineer's estimate?
Yeah. They have to agree that, yes, this is the money they're gonna put in because we have to pass a resolution.
So I'm saying, when you do your work here,
Mhm.
the Okra is looking at what the engineer put down, not what the people are thinking. And they gotta come up with they gotta say they're gonna fund, say 7.
Correct.
They gotta say they're gonna fund that.
Correct. It would be this budget here is what you'd be looking
And
at.
so if they
Yep.
are not gonna do that, then that project is dead.
Correct. Correct for grant funding anyway. So,
But they're looking at the engineer's estimate, that's the main thing, they don't wanna.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
so when is your next council meeting?
Next week.
The 9th, a week from today.
Yeah, you'll just come and just explain to them what you're saying to us, so they know exactly what needs to be done, you know?
What time is the council meeting, Brenda?
6:30.
6:30. Can I get on ahead of the agenda, because I got 18 days to get 3 applications in, and I'm like, I'm, yeah, this is my crazy time right now.
You can ask Ashley to do that.
Yeah, if I could get on the head of the agenda, that'd be amazing. But, and then I'm supposed to call your architect after this, and I can let him know, and maybe he can attend too. And, they would agree to move forward and, you know, agree to that money, then Because your 75,000 that you're paying your architect, you're already under contract, so you're already
Yeah.
set to that, so you would need, another
And
50.
we've already got the match for $750,000 funding
Mhm.
of 90-10. It will be 90-10, correct?
Well, not according to this budget.
I'm not saying that project, I'm saying according to,
Well,
of course, they're gonna look at that.
the minimum is 10%, but you can't do the minimum because you're going to be over.
Yeah.
You're at
Yeah,
8.6, let me
50,000.
just explain here. Let me pull this up, sorry. So 750. Oh, they changed all this stuff on here.
That's based on getting the grant too.
Well, you kind of have to have everything set in place.
Yeah, but
before
I'm
you-
saying,
So really, the total match you're putting in on 860,000 is over 10% because you're gonna have a match of 110,000, okay? You're already gonna have paid the 5,000 for the environmental, which you've already approved on that, right? And you're already paying 75,000 for the preliminary engineering, right? So 15,000 additional for engineering, 15,000 for, that's 30,000 right there. Plus, on the front page, all the upfront costs.
right,
So they would need to commit to $50,000 based on this budget here
very good. I know I talked a lot.
to obtain 750,000.
Good information.
But yeah, it would need to be quick because, it takes about 90 days to do an environmental review, especially if you're gonna have to do archaeological. We need to know that quickly. And it's gonna take at least 3 to 4 months to get your income survey done. And Okra, they're a hot mess because you have to request the survey. Then it takes them 10 to 15 days to approve it. And then you have to send a methodology and then it takes 10 to 15. It's just,
You said the first call from June 2nd, you only got 2, right?
oh no.
You said you had 5 on the second round?
Right now I have 3. I have 3 on the plate for round 1 and I have 5 on round 2. I prefer to take you in round 1, but I'm not sure we can move that fast.
But from your standpoint, is that showing a lot more people putting in for the second round? The second round will be more competitive.
There's a lot more money available because of their fiscal year in round 1. I can get you funded either round. That's not a problem. But so, okay, and so you want me to the council then on Monday the 9th at 6:30 and it's here, right?
You good information,
Okay.
and they can ask you the questions that they
Sure.
have,
Sure. Okay.
clarification.
And if you have any other questions, just give me a call. You guys have got my cell phone, so. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good information, good information. The proper acquisition, we covered that. The bid stuff, they've already sent it out to us. Make My Move, Scott McCauley, I was, just wanted to leave that off. I didn't see what it was in.
He had provided us information. We was gonna review it. I don't know if anybody else has reviewed the stuff.
I reviewed it. Scott Craig is the only one that replied back in my inquiries, and Scott thought it was a good program. It's a non-funded program at this point, if we would even agree to it. I don't know that
I'm not in favor of it.
the problem we have is that we just don't have the housing, and so far the council isn't willing to invest in that type of program so far. Anyway, in the previous program that I asked them to fund, which probably had a net result of $2.5 million in short run, they weren't willing to fund that. So I don't know that they would be willing to fund this either, given what they've said so far.
I think that Vermillion County is, can you tell me on permits from year to year, do you see a change? And I haven't kept up, I haven't asked, I'm sorry, but over the years, have you seen the same schedule, about 100 or 75? What's going on in Vermillion County from a building permit?
We're running, last year we only did like 53, we're already at 60 some this year, so we're up this year.
Okay.
But it runs right in that, and I have a printout from 19 years ago, of how many permits we've issued each year and how much are commercial, how much are residential.
So you're saying over the last, since you've been in, you've seen it consistently about the same amount about every year. Probably a little bit up, a little down, but it's
Right.
50 to 60, 75.
And these are
always
new
stands.
permits, new permits.
New permits, yes.
And they actually are built upon, they're actually acted upon. They're not just permits issued and sit dormant.
Normally they are not. Normally they're built on. I did have one that sat for a little bit, but he just recently contacted me and told me he did get the building done.
Sure, so
But yeah, they're built on, they're built upon.
I did 4 houses in the last 4 years. And every one was been from out of state. There are people wanting to move here.
Yes, absolutely. There's, the day doesn't go by that there's not something on Facebook,
Yeah.
somebody looking for someplace to rent or to buy.
the problem is with this type of program, we are not making an investment in this. It's all been private sector
Yeah,
investment.
I mean, I'm saying the demand's already there in the private sector for it, and spend more money to try
But
to
the
make.
private sector isn't keeping up with any of it. So we don't have any developers that are not doing just ones or twos in a year, actually just ones typically. So it's not, until we're willing to invest or willing to start working on some economic picture to bring this to a bigger construction field, it's not going to be helpful to bring more people in.
Another one of the issues is there's not a lot of money in building houses on site, you know? So it's not something everybody's trying to do because the profit margins are not that big. Okay, so where are we going with that? We'll review that more. I don't see where I'm in favor. That's up to you guys.
Yeah, I'm okay taking it off for now. I've reviewed some of the information, but like you said, you need to talk to council and see where they're at on it. I see the premise behind it, and I think there is some good to it, but
So can we have a decision by next meeting? 2 or 4?
We can have a decision now,
Yeah,
as far as I'm
you can
concerned.
take it off, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
The issue here is that we don't budget. And because we don't budget and we don't plan, we are always looking at these things as things we can't do because we don't do either one of those. And the council is a little bit is guilty also in that they won't give monies to projects that they don't already. It's a catch-22.
Yep.
We don't budget. We don't even ask for monies ever. In the last 4 years, we've not asked for monies, or we have, but it's always put off as an additional appropriation. So the council is guilty of this as well. So until we get to budgeting, true budgeting for the county, not just maintaining what we spend, and when we get to true planning, we might be able to do some of these things. But until commissioners or the council starts to do those things, we're going to flounder, I believe, and continue to flounder. My editorial comments for the day. I'm maybe not done, but that's one of them anyway.
Okay, the county engineer, I sent another request to Jim Meach just a while ago and an update. I think we just let that go with that first year and
I asked, I did call Mr. Meese, I called Jim Meese, Park County.
We're in the process, well, I'll let you speak, I'm sorry.
Anyway, he's not responded back yet on a couple of fronts. There is one engineer that is interested. I'm going to forward that name to you guys. You can talk with him or whatever you want to do with it. Anyway, he's been interested for a month anyway, if not more. So
With that program, the state would give us $40,000 a year for an engineer. We have talked to the state, to Jim Meese, and the state agreed that we can put 2 counties together, put their $40,000 together. To get an engineer, and it probably costs us each $20,000 a piece for having an engineer for 50% of the time, which I think is a great thing to do. I think it's very important with having an engineer on our highway for our highway department. I think decisions of county roads and paving should always be in the decision of the county engineer and the county highway department to do what's best for the county. I think the commissioners, I stay out of roads, making decisions about roads, because I think we have people that shouldn't be paving a road just because who you are and what you are, and it should all be based on documentation of road usage and that. So county engineer would be a big improvement to our county, and I will continue to proceed after that. I've been several years working on that, and Brett's been a big help too. So we'll just put that on the agenda for first meeting probably, unless leave it on the agenda in case we hear something different.
You guys do need to, I'll send, if you're going to be interested in this individual, or if you're going to get an engineer, you probably do need to talk with him. Otherwise, at least tell him that you're not interested if that's the case too, so.
Well, RJ.
And I'm not saying he's the right person. You need to interview. This is just one individual that's come forward. so.
I think the engineer, I think we can, for the cost of what it costs to have one, I think we could just easily use a company and use them as needed for roads or bridges, stuff like that. I'm not sure that I see the benefit of $120,000 or $100,000 engineer. We've talked about it for a lot of years, but that's my opinion to date, so.
When you say $120,000 is the cost of the engineer, it costs the county $20,000 to have an engineer 50% of the time. So I'm trying to figure out.
We're willing, that is, I
Yes.
think ill-founded. You're,
Say it's 50,000, 20,000. The numbers doesn't matter, Tim. If we need a bridge looked at or something, a lot of these engineering companies, you're looking anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 to have them do something. I just don't think the county needs a full-time engineer. So
that's been part of the problem with the county all along, is that we've had commissioners making decisions on these things, and commissioners are not highway engineers. They're not highway oriented. They're politically oriented for the most part. There's no education, no knowledge, no experience.
Britton, did anybody say
I'm
that?
finished. I'm not finished yet.
All right,
We have
finish
not
your
done
comment.
it.
RJ.
I just said let him finish his comment, Tim, all right?
We do not have education, knowledge, or experience in any of those things. And by making these decisions, just like what we've been doing for the last, since 2017, we kept paving roads, but we didn't go back and seal a single road. And we finally got that finished last year. By doing so, that and our bridges, and by making decisions on what should be done first and second and third, there's a lot of data available to us, and we spent money on an asset management plan. If we don't incorporate someone to concentrate on these type things, then we're going to continue to basically waste money. And we will not be doing what needs to be done for the county up front initially, and then have that in an order in which we have a 1-year plan and a 5-year plan, what we're going to do next year and what we're going to do in 5 years. We've never done that on the county highway side either. We haven't done it as commissioners for the county period, but on the highway, it's very important that we do that. We have plans in place and we're not using them. What we do have anyway. They're incomplete, and being able to interpret them and understand the cost to those and understand how those are to be developed and in what order they're to be developed and how those are scored, if you will, as far as traffic counts, arteries, needs. It's the largest expense we have in the county, and yet we have directors for area planning, we have directors for Board of Health, we have directors for whatever else, but we don't have one for highway, and that's our largest budget we have. It's just unconscionable that we would not have someone overseeing this that has got that education, that's got that experience, that's got that knowledge.
Well, to counter some of that, Britton, I at no point said that, well, I can't recall now from the first part of your conversation, but I had said you could hire an engineer part-time for projects that we needed to oversee. And to say roads weren't chip and sealed after they were paved that's just not accurate. I served on the council from 2018 on. And as Tim has stated, I think in his whole 8, 10, 12 years as commissioner here, Vermilion County has some of the best roads compared. So if that's the case, then we've obviously done something right over the course of 40 years. If we're saying we have the best roads, but then at the same token, we're saying we don't know how to manage that road system. So maybe we do have the worst roads.
And that's because we neglected our bridges all along up until 2 years ago. And again, we did it again this year, which we didn't get any bridges into the program, either in maintenance or replacement. So yes, we do have a problem, and it's not being managed. And I don't understand why we can have directors for everything else, but yet our largest budget, the most intense budget, the one that requires the most experience and the most education and knowledge, we neglect. We say, no, commissioners can make best decisions there, or we're going to rely upon our superintendents and our foremen to make those decisions. I just don't, it's not believable.
Birmingham County has probably the best road system now.
And that's our opinion, okay? And pat us on the back, big deal. We have 30% less roads in Park County. We have 30% roads less in Fountain County. Vigo, even further. So we have less roads to maintain. And are we spending our money well? Look at our bridges. We have, I think, 20 bridges that are a box beam type bridge. Do we understand the problems with those? I don't think you do. And the problem is that we're going to have to be replacing those in short order in the next 20 years. We haven't even started on those. So we don't have an understanding. We have an artificial look at this. We're blinded by, oh, we can travel down our roads 45 miles an hour and not hit a pothole. Okay. It's not being managed. It's artificially. It's smoke and mirrors. It's in reality.
Adding into the bridge situation is a major thing, and that's where an engineer could prioritize our spending and come up with better decision making. That makes sense. I agree with that.
And Tim, we do have a list. We have a bridge inventory that is mandated by the state that every so many years our bridges are rated from the state. We used to have Clark Dietz, and you've been here long enough, you've seen those books, and those books have those bridges rated. So to say we need someone to tell us what bridges need replaced, we already have a book that tells us that.
And we're not using it. You should take the example of the last Notha Bridge. Asked, just out of courtesy, basically asked our last engineering, what bridge should we put in the NOVA program? Well, Bridge 37 comes out. Bridge 37 is already in the program. We're going around and asking people, these firms change people. Clark Dietz has lost two of their engineers that we've been using. RQAW is going to take a number of years to get into the saddle. And they'll have changes. And in fact, they've already changed. They're not in RQAW anymore. They're a different firm. We're not, it's the consistency here, it is just totally wrong to go this direction, and it's just because we don't have that experience here to be able to make those type of decisions, and we don't understand because we're not looking at these through a professional lens. So
to sum that all up, I think our county roads have we've done very, very well. The crossing grant came available several years ago. I think we're getting close to probably the total of $10 million of investment over those years. Our roads are probably the best in the state and as far as the county, but they also need what Britton is saying, preventive maintenance that comes back and follows up on that. So done a lot of that this last year. But like I said, I think we've done very well, and I also agree with I'm trying to get the engineer in and with my agenda for a long time to bring that professional expertise in on a daily basis. So, but we'll see how that happens. We're going to move on to Penny Carpenter and 2024-10 ordinance, unified developed ordinance and zoning map. Penny Carpenter and Brad Johnson.
We're here.
The star of the show today.
I think everyone's well aware that we're asking for action by the county commissioners today to reject the current ordinance as it was presented to you, with or without keeping the enforcement section. It's a $600 line item. If we keep the enforcement and penalties section and adopt that and reject everything else, or if we just reject everything. So what we are hoping to do is to take all of the comments and recommendations that were made by the commissioners at our at your work session a week ago. I've already started making those changes. I'll have the rest of the changes made this week. We will get that document distributed to commissioners, APC, our steering committee, with the idea that we would be going for a public hearing at the APC meeting on December 9th. At that point, assuming it is certified for
We're
approval,
going looking at January.
I'm sorry, January 9th.
Yep,
Sorry, January 9th.
Still in a minute.
Yeah,
me too.
we need time to advertise that meeting. It has to be advertised at least 10 days prior to, and that would put us right at Christmas, so we're just gonna shoot for the January meeting. So January 9th, that public hearing would be held, likely certified, and would be sent back to you as a certified document ready to be adopted by the county commissioners with those changes that you requested. So that's the timeline that we're shooting for. Can answer any questions you might have about that. By statute, it has to go to your first meeting, first county commissioner meeting, which may or may not be on the 14th. We don't know at this point. It depends on what you decide your agenda is this next year. But it would come to your first meeting, either for a first reading, or you can table it and move it on to the next meeting. But that would start that 90-day clock that you're familiar with once the APC certifies it on the 9th of January.
What's your council recommendation?
Pardon me?
What's your council recommendation?
Area plans?
Yeah,
This,
that's from your attorney.
Right. We haven't reviewed the suggested changes that was discussed last week at the meeting. We'll discuss that here on December the 12th and look at all those.
Yeah, I've got 2 calls still to make. One is to emergency services per your recommendation for that long driveway standard, and second is to the APC attorney. Just to, he contacted me last week, and I just need to get back with him and answer any questions that he has, as well as hear any recommendations he has. But we still think that we're on track for the January 9th APC meeting for a public hearing, get these changes certified, and get it back to you at your first meeting in January.
The situation was talking about an opinion from the court. Is that something you work on, you don't talk?
So our recommendation is to keep the language as it is until we get that court ruling, partially because there is likely second and third and fourth projects possibly coming that would not have the preemption if the ruling is that there is a preemption on this. And so we would just need to kind of sort that out. But if the court rules in 90 days from now, or even 6 months from now, that we've erred in this, then we would change the document at that time.
with the changes I don't know if there's that many changes. Both of them are wordsmithing, I think. I don't know that we've agreed on any other changes as far as commissioners go.
So here's what will happen is that by the end of this week, I'll have a red penned version that will come to you. And my hope would be is that if you see any additional changes, or if I've erred in any way and haven't really dialed in that language the way you want it to be, is that we'll take those further recommendations or tweaks to the language to the APC meeting just the same. So it's not just what you had in your workshop a week ago, it's whatever continues to come in from commissioners. So yeah, we have some.
But you're gonna, but then it'll be back to more here. Then we go back through that process again of hearings and then bring it back in front of the commissioners at a later time. So there's more hearings to be had if those changes are incorporated that you've redlined. Public hearings, that is.
Public hearing, yes.
All of that will
Start
go
over
ahead
again
on January 9th.
Yeah. So even if we approve the thing today minus those changes there, we can't do that then.
I'm not sure if I followed, Britton. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't say that well. No wonder. If you would make those changes and those are approval, or we like those changes by next meeting, it doesn't really matter because it's going to have to go back in front of public hearings.
Correct.
So takes some time also. So
Unless you accept it the way it stands today.
yeah.
now.
Yeah, I mean, you could adopt it the way it is today, but whole cloth, you could approve it, and then we could still bring changes to you the first of next year.
With regard to the enforcement section of this, I think that's where you're kind of heading with this.
Correct. And honestly, that is just because I want to save you the $600.
Yeah, that's,
And if you don't, that's fine too. It's
It's
whatever
not-
you think is best.
yeah. My question is that there's not a schedule of fines. It says that it's going to be
We
X
will
amount of
work,
dollars.
yeah, I'm planning on working on that as well.
So there will be a schedule,
For fees, yes.
fees, and
The
when it comes down to
fines
fines,
are in the enforcement and penalties section already, I believe.
I'm sorry,
The fines are already listed in the enforcement and penalties section.
but it's,
Not a line item, maybe as you would want it to be, but
Well,
what we
that
put
was-
in there is that the state, we dialed in the fines to be consistent with what the state allows you to fine somebody.
well, that's where I'm going with this, is that it says the fine in amount of not less than $50 or higher than $2,500 for the first, but then you go on to say that it's going to be $7,500. I don't know, John, we're not allowed to go up to 75. 2,500 is our max, is it not?
For an ordinance violation fine?
Yes.
Let me look at it.
Now, you cite a point in here that's saying that the state allows us to go 7,500. We've never been able to do that on any other ordinance.
I believe the state statutes does say that. Ultimately, it ends up being whatever a judge decides it to be, because it usually is litigated. And so there's nobody, 99% of any violation should never even come close to those limits. It's the truly rare circumstance where somebody is lawyering up and trying to fight the county, is you want to be able to recover your expenses in fighting those violations. Defend yourself.
The statute says we're not allowed to do a fine of greater than $2,500 for the first violation of an ordinance, or more than $7,500 for a subsequent violation of an ordinance.
Of the same nature, or the other, is it of the same nature, second violation, or is that just a second?
Subsequent violation. I would read it to mean the same. I'll send you guys the statute to look at.
Part of the things that have happened in the past is that we stack, that each of these are, each violation, sometimes it's written that each violation, I don't know if you did this, but I've seen it elsewhere, where every day is a new violation. And so if it would be, we'll just say it's 2,500. So it's 2,500 a day. If it's not solved by tomorrow, it's another 2,500. That becomes unattainable after a certain point in time.
And there's not one community that I know of that's ever collected those types of dollars for violations.
It's not that, it's the threat of it, though. Regardless of whether you can, it is possible.
Correct.
And it becomes where property has only so much value. People have only so much money, most people. I guess I have problems with that.
It's there because the statutes allow it to be there, for one. Number two is it's there for that really rare case where you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars trying to enforce your ordinance, and it's a way to offset those costs.
But there's
99+% of the time, you're talking about these $50 violations, if anything. And I've heard it here in this room with the Area Planning Commission sitting in the seats you're sitting in. They've said multiple times in the violations they're going after right now that they just want the item to be corrected. They don't care about the money. And that's, again, the right thing to do. And I think that the culture here is such that you're not necessarily trying to collect money, you're trying to get the violation corrected so the neighbors don't have to keep dealing with the problems. The dollars that you're referring to are there only as a safeguard for you in the future. So your area plan commission, even if let's say it takes them 10 days to correct the violation and the ordinance says $50 a day for every day counts as a new violation. Now they're at $500 for 10 days of violation. Your area plan commission can waive that they can just say, great, you fixed the problem, we don't need the $500. If they had expenses and they want to collect that, they could do that as well, but sometimes that gets challenged in court, and the court will make the final decision. Yeah, that's, have them pay $200 of the $500. Yeah. So it's rarely, very, very, very rarely do communities ever get even close to those dollar amounts.
I still have a concern that, because our expenses are enormous to go after these things, but that's part of the land planning. We decided that we wanted zoning, we decided we wanted land planning, so we have to accept that we have these costs involved with it.
Right.
And the problem is that people, very rarely can you solve a problem, and that doesn't say that we don't give them time to, before we start imposing fines, I think, correct, typically.
So I know
But
of
this
cases
is,
in
I know we have cases, but the thing is that Penny does it one way. Penny's not gonna be here for the next, if it takes 25 years before we get to our next one, or 40 years, where it's been, she'll retire at some point in time. So we'll have a different director, we'll have different viewpoints. I'm just a little concerned that we don't have a maximum amount, that this doesn't go beyond.
Let me just offer up at least one situation that I know of, and that is where a community has a business violator. You know, they've put up extra signs without permits that exceed the limitations of height and size and all that kind of stuff. And their violation is something like $50. And this business makes so much money that they are willing to pay the $50 fine every day for all of time, because they're making so much money to keep the signs the way they are.
But isn't that something that should be more in tune with the, I forget the term for it, but it's a person who continues to make a violation. There's a term for that, but I don't recall what it is.
Yeah.
But is that not a better way of this being, sure, we've got, Duke may not care as much for a $7,000 fine, and it'll cost them that much to have an attorney come in. They may pay that. But if it was me, $7,000, I'd be hard strapped to come up with $7,000 to make a payment. I don't know that size or whether amount of money you got, that's more socialistic things, I guess, as opposed to maybe having this written where if they're a ongoing violator. Again, I wish I knew I can't remember the term, but
So maintaining a common nuisance. something like
well,
that.
it continue. You put your sign up this week. Okay, you pay your fine. A month later, same thing. A month later, same thing. Well, habitual offender. There you go. Fine, come up with it. So I don't see where we have an habitual offender issue in here, or it's even considered. It's just, okay, you get a fine, you have to pay it, just like this company does. Well, the fines don't mean anything. It could have been even higher than that. But we don't have anything in here that just says, okay, we have a limit on how much fines, and at a point we're not going to recover, or we do recover, but we have an habitual offender that continues to do it, and it's worth it to them to continue to violate. Is that not more of an issue than the 7,500s or whatever?
I think I understand what you're saying, and we could try to write something into the regulations to talk about habitual or repeat offenders.
Well, I'm not saying you can write in. I'm asking for yours, whether this is a legitimate concern, or you can say it's not, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I don't think it's a legitimate concern, honestly.
Well, then you should have said that first.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I think that.
We'll move on.
I think that it's just like any other enforcement action by a government, whether it's a police department, fire marshal, whatever it may be, is that when you know that you might get fined $10,000 for this fire escape violation from the fire marshal, it gets your attention, right? It's not, you don't just blow it off. So having the sort of that cloud of option that the government can impose if I don't want to comply, or if I just ignore the regulations, I think that's what you use for those rare cases. But I I do not support and don't want to see your county trying to gouge people with violations. It's really always, the goal is to get it corrected, not to make money. And I just don't see any, I mean, I don't see communities, using that tool to be a funding source for their planning departments. They use permits for funding for their planning departments, but they don't use violations.
Okay, we
for
we
that.
beat that horse.
Yeah.
Going on, how is that determined on the amount of money that's going to be fined? I don't see how that, it looks like it's arbitrary and can be applied
So-
differently to different people for different situations, but who makes that decision and how's that amount
Typically,
determined?
that decision is not made until we're before the judge
Right.
on the fine.
So it's not like if the eyelash,
Yeah, correct.
so we got $1,000 fine there. Well, it actually stipulates, if you do this, you're going to have this amount, this amount. And it doesn't necessarily go in front of a judge. They can take it to a judge and ask for relief from that. But in this case, it's whatever you come up with, or whatever the judge comes up with, but you're still going to make a recommendation to
Sure,
the
we
judge.
do, yes.
Yes, and when it gets litigated, when a community is enforcing their ordinance and is taking that person to court, the court uses that $2,500 to $7,500 language. Your attorney is making a recommendation that because of these factors, we're looking to collect whatever, $500 from this person to help offset our costs for enforcement. And the judge can knock that down. The judge can even increase it. They
But
can say,
this
you only
says
asked
that-
for 500, but I'm going to.
Yeah, I understand, that's fine. But
So-
okay, I have a portable sign out in front of my business or whatever it is, and now it's not allowed for whatever reason, or I've had it there too long, whatever the case. So now you're saying I'm in violation. I go, well, fine me. Okay, so now you're going to take me to court over that?
Possibly.
are?
I mean, again, depends on.
So I did it this month, and so I take it down after a day, and you say you're going to fine me. You're really going to go for that $50 fine to court? I
I
don't
would
think
hope
so.
not.
Probably
If
not.
you've taken it down.
But now, next month, I do the same thing. I put it back up, wait a day. The thing is that there's no, you're saying every time we're going to find somebody, we're going to go to court.
No, we're not. Typically, they're only going to court when somebody is refusing to correct the violation or keeps coming up with excuses or keeps making promises that don't get fulfilled. So,
Okay.
for instance, they go and say, hey, this junk in your front yard needs to be cleaned up. We can even provide you a dumpster. Just tell us what day you want it delivered. We just need it cleaned
Yeah,
up.
but those things are just whether
And-
it's administrative, whether they do it or don't do it. We're looking at regulation here. We're not looking at what they might do or might not do. We're looking at what the written rule is here,
So
I understand.
So you get you may get a citation, whatever, a notice of violation, and it says there's a $50 fine. A lot of times the letters also say, if you remedy this within the next 7 days, we will waive the fine.
But it's not written in here that way.
It is not written in there that way.
It says,
If you
depends
want it to
on
be written
who.
in there that way, we can write it in there that way. But it's
I'm not saying it
ultimately
needs to
it's-
be. I'm looking toward your advice. I'm bringing up what I see as an issue. You're saying it's not. If you say it's not an issue, then we can move on. So
I don't think it's an issue.
It
There you
hasn't been
go.
an issue in the past.
Yeah, the county has a pretty good track record of identifying serious violations and pursuing those corrections. Minor violations has not been aggressive about pursuing them.
okay.
I think that all leaves the administration, if you will, to have something in place just in case, and most people don't respond anyway, take care of the problem, and it'll be fine. But then if it don't work, then you can find it. I think that's all in a nutshell is what.
Well, I'm used to what the US EPA does, and they have like $10,000 a day fines potentially, and they use that as a hammer, and they come across county government as well, and so you end up very quickly with $100,000 fines. Not that they expect to recover that, but what they do is they come and make an agreement with you in which you're going to spend $100,000. Now, it may be your benefit, but they will correct that and you will use your $100,000 in some means of being able to do that. And that's where I really don't like that type of government, and that's why I'm leery of this as well, because I see it used as a hammer, and it may be selective, and I see it being selective too, because I've seen it go against certain companies inside the same industry and applied differently to other companies. So it's just, I see a potential of abuse there. And different administrations to do it differently. So that's why I have some issue, or anyway.
So where are we going to compare with this situation?
Again, I'd like you to vote on the ordinance. Our recommendation is just to reject it and keep the enforcement to save the $700 or $500 to $700. Let's just say $600.
So your recommendation is for us to go ahead and pass this as?
No, I believe we need to make some changes.
Okay.
So, I mean, we can make the changes if you adopt it, and we can make the changes if you reject it. Either way, it's gonna get corrected.
Your recommendation is to reject one way or the other, entire document or withhold the enforcement section.
Right. And then you're gonna see it back on your desks.
And we can approve by title. We can
By
approve just by
article.
title and reject the rest of it, correct?
I believe so. I mean, I've seen other communities do that. I've not seen any reason why you can't do that.
Okay, that's fine.
It's a proposed ordinance. It's broken out into articles.
To get us to the point of making a decision whether we want this or not, I'll go ahead and make a motion according to area plan's recommendations that we reject the UDO in its entirety with the exception of the enforcement section of or Article 10, of which will be passed in its as currently written. Also, that John, the declaratory judgment there's some fog on that maybe last meeting, or was there? Has it been clear that we're asking you to draft that declaratory judgment?
That's what I'd ask you in the meeting, is whether you wanted their attorney to draft it or me to draft it.
And there was a fog over that, correct?
I thought you guys wanted me to draft it, and what you said in the meeting was sound like you
Something
wanted their
different.
attorney to draft it. I'm perfectly happy to get something out there.
Yeah, and I misunderstood for you what was being said there, I think, when I said that. And so I also, was part of this part of this motion, would request that our county attorney draft the request for declaratory judgment on, I don't recall the numbers, 520.
Get that, yeah.
Well, the relevant sections that basically apply to the CO2, which I think is on page 524, maybe.
C, D, and E.
C, D, and E, correct.
I won't get that done.
To be, yes, on 524, parts C, D, and E. None of this comes into force at this point, but we're asking for that declaratory judgment on that. Do I need to restate that, or is it clear enough for y'all?
That's good for me. I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
I will say, John, that is just you filing that. You're not going before the.
No, I don't intend to brief it. I was
That's
just
what
going
I-
to make it neutral on behalf of the commissioners. We're concerned about this. We want to answer, and then we're going to invite all interested parties to submit a brief. If they
So-
want to.
And we would expect the area plan to, their attorney and or his proxy to do that.
Absolutely.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Right.
thank you.
I thought that'd be long-winded.
Is the SVOA?
Also, for future reference, we can amend these things. So if we find that they're not working for us, i.e. we've passed one now, but if it's not working for the county, we can ask for them to amend it, and I think we can ask them twice, and if they don't come back with that amendment, the commissioners have the authority to make that amendment at that point.
Policy
So-
meeting for SBOA, that's still something with the handbook that he's doing
I haven't done anything with the house principals.
now.
I sent that to you guys, I thought you guys were gonna.
Just put it on the next, I guess, if you guys all agree, let's take that, moving on with that.
That's fine.
Do what?
The policy needed for SBOA,
Yeah, we still need that, but I've not had time to work on it.
okay, moving on. Weight limits on roads.
I assigned it to our staff members, but the staff didn't do anything with it.
Weight limits on road, Brenda just looked this up for me, they're doing that, the last ordinance that she can find
That I
right
can
now.
find.
That you can find, is ordinance 20, on the 2014, 001, that was adopted on the 25th of February, 2014, by Tim Wilson, Harry Crossley, and Russell Hall. It says provides, highlights by the adopt ordinance traffic or highway, whereas provides local authorities respect to highways that prohibit the operation of vehicles on any highway or impose restrictions as the weight limits and to be operating highways for a total period not more than 90 days in any 1 year, whenever any highway by reason of deterioration, rain, snow, or other climate conditions may seriously damage or destroy that regulation of vehicles. Now therefore be ordained by the County Commission of Birmingham County, Section 1, a temporary local limit of 15 tons shall become effective beginning January 1st of each year until further notice. Limit shall apply to all gravel and bituminous roads located in Birmingham County, Indiana. The ordinance shall apply to all vehicles except those under IC 9-20-2-1-ET sequence and school buses that must have some restrictions. I mean, not be able to limit a certain amount of vehicles. They're probably farmers and stuff. And school buses, when they're being used to transport students, are being taken out of their regular place of storage and maintenance. Violations of this ordinance are subject to $5 fine. The ordinance shall be in full force effective from its adoption, and any publications may be required law. So that's what we found so far on it. I was thinking that went into effect January 1st, but then I thought it went off sometime April 1st or March the 15th. You know, during the freeze and thaw on it, but I don't see where.
I thought there was some dates associated with it as well, but
What?
I thought there was dates associated with it as well.
So if this is the only thing we have, I think that.
I'd have to do a deeper search.
But I've seen on some of the signs in the past, it said like March or something. Has anyone seen those signs around and it still got a month on it? There's actually a month on it. I remember seeing that somewhere. So maybe we can clarify that.
Maybe, yeah. Where are we at with our codification, with the code, with American Legal, I think it is, with the codification of our ordinance?
We approved.
Where are we at with that, though?
And then have they made any attempt to turn that back from?
Well, it's not them, it's us and them. No. John, were you going to be working on that, or?
I didn't know I was supposed to be. If there's something I need to do, I can do it.
I thought that you and the auditor were going to work with American Legal to provide them with the data that we have that's relevant.
Does someone want to make a phone call to them to get an update and bring it up the next meeting?
You know, we authorized that some time ago. Well, the reason why I brought it up is just that would have it, it becomes searchable and we can look for our weight limits.
Right.
That's what I was getting at.
So who should be addressing that issue? I mean, if no one else, I don't know.
Well, the auditor has the records and John has the knowledge. So,
I'll get with Brandon.
Okay. Very good. We'll bring this back up the next meeting. I would like to clarify a date. It was roughly a date of March the 15th or something. I still remember seeing it.
I know what you're saying, but I thought I saw it in ordinance, but anyway,
There is no,
it's not that we found
I
anyway.
typed in road limit, weight limit, all kinds of things.
15 tons, so it'll be 30,000 pound weight limit.
And
County home lease, we do need to come up with some type of agreement on that.
there was an agreement already drafted, but it was never signed. whether you want to keep the same agreement or not.
Well, it's the beginning of the first year, so if we're gonna do anything on lease or anything, we probably need to figure out what we're gonna do with it.
You know, if you review what we had previously forwarded, then either change it or keep it the same. So there's already a lease agreement, it's just that they didn't sign it, as far as I know.
Why don't we put that agreement on for the next meeting and have a decision made on that next meeting?
Have that,
I do.
you can send it to me.
Okay. The fencing costs, the current tenant was asking for X amount of dollars to replace the fence. I forget how many thousands of dollars, whether it was $7,500 or $6,500, anyone remember off the top of their head?
Cannot.
I don't remember, it was a significant number though.
Gordon.
He's supposed to ask permission before he does that, but he didn't sign the lease, so he's on the property illegally as it goes, so until he signs the lease, shouldn't expect the enumeration for anything.
But that wasn't work that was done, that was work he's wanting to have done, correct?
I thought it was a bill. It looked like a bill. Was it not an invoice for work already done?
I don't think it was.
I think it was a proposal.
An estimate?
Yeah, I think it was an estimate, yeah.
Okay. Well, when he signs the lease, I think we can address that.
Well, the situation I'm asking, you guys all input, should we be responsible for putting up a fence on our property for someone who's renting a property? And do we assume some type of liability when we put up a fence? Because we put up that fence, and I think if we put it up, we'll probably have to maintain it. So if we put up a fence and then our animals get out and we put up a fence, technically
I think he's trying to comply with what that lease agreement said. It was that if he was going to make any improvements, and if the county was going to pay for it, then he has to ask the county to do that before he's reimbursed. So he's, I think, following through with what the new lease agreement stands for. So we either agree that we're going to pay that amount or we're not.
well, we need to make a decision next meeting if we are or not. And that gives you time to redo your little research and come up with a solution or an answer.
Well, one of the things that you might consider, or we might consider, is that if he's making an improvement to the property, is that something that goes forward to the county? Because right now it's an annual lease, or we need to maybe look at these as being a 3-year lease or something to that effect, as opposed to being an annual year-to-year lease. I don't know that we benefit from a fence going up on that property as far as the county goes. But I can see him also saying, I'm going to make an investment in a property that's going to last some years.
You mean more longer lease where he can still.
Well, if he's, yeah, and I think that may be a consideration is to make a longer lease term, and then he can make his decision whether he wants to do that. But I don't know that the county wants to be paying for these type things either. We don't have a standing benefit if we don't have that lease the following year anyway.
That's where we're at on that one there. We'll make a resolution next week. Cell phone use, I think that's still something within the.
Did they ever get all the data for that?
Nope.
We have a request from state IoT, because of these phones are now becoming part of the issues with cyber attacks. It's not only that, but it's also with printers too, and we've got both of those in the county, of which are not necessarily secured, and people don't necessarily know how to use them to keep them secure. So we have 2 issues in the county, of which we're vulnerable to, or continue to be vulnerable to.
I'll just for a while. Next one, junior hospital agreement. There was some question on that. As far as the actual cost per hour on that, was it 35 or 36 or 37?
They pay $38, and they increased that. They said they would increase it anyway to pay for, I forget what it was.
The Medicare and stuff.
There was some increase that they agreed to do. Our costs to the county right now is $59. That's been clouded a little bit, and that RJ sent a letter to, or an email to Union saying that we'll wait until next year to do this, so.
Well, that was per a phone conversation from Stephanie. She'd called me and asked that discussions like this resume after January. And that's why I sent that email out. Stephanie Laws, Union Hospital.
Yeah, well, it's contrary to what we decided at the commissioners meeting, so I don't care whether it's, can be done next year, but there's no reason for me to go through these. I've already contacted Dana, I contacted the sheriff, I tried to contact Park, but.
Yeah, that was the
discussion's
intention of the
ongoing.
email, was to waylay whatever things that we had asked to do because they want to wait till after January, so.
So I'll just let it go then, and then it can be decided next year with whatever.
Yep.
But anyway, the point is right now is that we're paying, our cost is around $59 to the county. Dana has found that their costs are greater than what the remuneration that they get. I was going to go to Clinton, but I've not talked to Clinton yet. I did talk to the sheriff. I have a call in to Park. There are other people involved in this than those entities also that have enforcement actions there. But so far, it appears that our costs are higher than that, and it appears that maybe Dana's cost is higher than that. No.
Well, I think the whole purpose of what we're doing is I think we all appreciate our law enforcement, all they do, and we're happy for them to have different jobs and stuff. We're just trying to make sure that the county is reimbursed for the cost, and that's good government.
Well, Union's position is that, or at least what they stated previously, was that they want an agreement that's universal as opposed to an agreement that's different for each entity. So they believe that will cause issues if they're paying, say they pay Vermilion County $59 or whatever our cost, just say it's $60. Pay our cost at $60, and then they're going to pay Dana's cost at $38, and then somebody else is at $40, and so it's.
Makes sense.
Anyway, that's their concern, is that it's not a uniform rate. I told them, well, just pay the $60 and everybody will be happy.
To
But
get this right now, RJ, you're the one negotiating with them on this situation instead of threatening.
Union Hospital had asked that these conversations be reconvened in January. So
And they sent you a letter in that.
they called me and talked to me, and then
They didn't send you a letter.
No, I spoke to Stephanie on the phone. Yeah.
well, I'm going to step aside on this issue then, and then you guys can take it up next year then.
That's fine.
I appreciate what you did, Brett. You've done a big help in this, and I appreciate what you've done.
Well, you thank the auditor for that. She's the one that brought forth the cost difference. So I was only carrying water.
So put that on the agenda for after the first of the year, then, I guess.
I'll put that on it.
County parks, I have an update on that. Some of you guys have.
Did you
something
have anything with county
coming out.
parks? Did they say anything with what they?
No, they did say some that they've got documentation. I think they've had some board members out. I haven't got anything sent to me official yet. I do know they still would like to get that Perrysville thing rectified. I think the trustee up there would, and just everybody in general. So with the Perrysville.
So really, we don't have no word from nobody concrete.
The only thing is Perrysville's requested that they've identified that park is theirs and they want the county to take it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't know if we own any other parks for sure.
The courthouse, I haven't seen anything on that status. I mean, unless you guys have.
Well, Terry gave us the costs for the most part. Was there something missing? It was. I don't know that he was. No, it was the facade, or not the facade, but the repairs to the structural. I don't know if they're structural, but the repairs to the facade outside
Well, yes, it'd come
was
next
missing.
week.
That was getting to be a substantial bill, though, and we don't have. I don't know that any money's been allocated to any of that either.
I'll
So
try. Depends on what time he gets in from his.
Yeah.
So my guys might just need to give him a call or something.
Yeah.
County handbook status, that is still in your first hand, right? You guys working on that?
Yeah, it's still going.
on what?
Public defender, cost recovery, RJ,
Still working on that.
any special time you think you can?
I'll keep you guys apprised when I get that finished. I'll get you guys on an email when it's done.
Now, that is affecting our reimbursement rates. So we can't get any reimbursement to us this file, is that right?
Yeah.
Supposedly, there's some indication it can be made retroactive, but
Just like I said, done within a reasonable amount of time.
don't know that for a fact. because-
Announcements. I got a few things to do. I want to say appreciate Mike Clyke and Brenda, keep me on the right names here. Mike Clyke and Kylie Yoakum, and who else on the safety grant?
You guys, the commissioners.
We just got a safety grant from the NDOT for pavement markings in various locations for Maine County. It's something that's been going on for a long time, especially in Hazel Bluff. We've had complaints about Hazel Bluff not being able to see on that at night. People driving off the edge of the road. And the total of the grant is $130,500. This is a safety grant, which is you can't beat safety grants for the 90-10. And so our part will be 13.5, I think it is, from 13,000, excuse me. So this is, we'll have the list of the roads in the next meeting, so everybody knows.
Do we have the funding for that?
I'm sorry, what?
Do we have the funding for that?
So this was approved then? From a grant, we got awarded this, is that?
Yes.
Okay. What, was it amended? Because I didn't know that we were applying for this, and when Mike did send me some documents on it, there was a mistake made on the road that he was submitted.
I believe it was. Kylie can answer that. She's not here. I do know.
Okay, because I'd asked Mike for a follow-up, and like, we were gonna put pavement markings on gravel road, which is,
Oh, I don't think that
No,
happened.
no,
I think that they fixed
they
that.
fixed it, because the original application had it on over a half-mile
See,
gravel
if we had an
road.
engineer, that would happen.
Well,
I'm
that's-
kidding, I'm kidding.
I mean, even,
Yeah, no, that.
what I'm saying is,
I'm
Yeah.
99% sure that.
when you have a 90-10 funding for a grant, I mean, you can't pass that up. And I
Was
think
the whole
safety
road
is.
that was gravel?
it
Or
was,
that
it was,
the
it was at 32, it was everything north of 32.
One of the things I was going to ask about and get some research done, I said something to John Spur about is protection of animals and the killing of animals. I don't know what that law is, and we as a county, I would like to find out what that is and what type of penalties is for. I understand if a dog comes on your property and is being destructive and doing something, you have a right to secure your property, but there's been a lot of reports of dogs being killed just coming across people's property. I think that's a sad situation, and I'm trying to find out, do we have any penalties in that,
Statute.
situations like that? I'm surprised how many people I've talked to that own property and restrict any type of animals. I mean, dogs come across their property and.
You don't see those purple markings?
But animals are important in everyone's life, pets are, and I just want to find out what we are on that. The other thing is, do we have any rules or regulations or fines that would be imposed on people dumping dogs? It's going on a lot. In fact, I just picked up 2 dogs that were dumped, and I would like to know the answer to.
Penny has a suggestion.
So my concern is what's going on with the Humane Society?
I am.
I'm being told they won't take animals.
I think RJ's on that board.
We have new board members, we have a new director on board, so what's the holdup? Because somebody dumped a dog out by Connie's house, 40-pound bag of dog food, and the dog was dumped.
Yeah, I was appointed to that board, as well as Jim Meese and several other new members. There's a new shelter manager out there, and I can't tell you verbatim if they told Connie no, what was this, yesterday or Friday?
Last week
Sometime. I would defer to the new shelter manager, because they are the new staff out there is very coherent on the rules and stuff. So I would say that if they couldn't take it, I would say they were either overpopulated or they just don't have the room in the shelter, would be my guess. But without talking to Raina, I couldn't tell you that without calling out there and speaking to
Do you
her.
have the 492 number for out there?
I'm sure I do somewhere.
I don't want to ask for a cell number. in public
Yeah,
meeting,
no, I'm sure I can get it, but I mean, I would defer you to that, because I do know they've done a lot out there. They had a grand reopening event. I know the sheriff's department has a much better rapport with them now. They are moving forward. It just sucks that, I mean, people are dumping animals all the time and you can't, I mean, they've got holding pens out there. The shelter itself does need some renovation too. I'm sure if you've been out there, they've kind of outgrown their facility from whenever that was built. But yeah, I would defer to Reno on that, just to,
And aren't we 50/50 with Park County?
not on the
No.
money we give, no. I think Vermilion's much higher than what they give.
We
They've
give them
been
like
giving only
50,000 and
30,000.
35, I think it is.
Yeah.
And are we getting that 35 though?
No, we don't get it.
The shelter gets
I
it.
mean, is the shelter
Yeah,
receiving that?
they are.
Yeah.
No,
The
Okay.
shelter is separate from the county. This is just,
we have no control over it.
No, I have heard, you know, how the rumors are that Vermillion County's the only one making their
providing
contribution. not-
contribution.
No, Park County continues to make it. They just don't match us exact amount that we give.
But we definitely need to do something.
Their budget is roughly $400,000, I think it is a year, so even 50 and 35 is not a large percentage of what they're actually budgeting. We met with Jim Meese, and I'm gonna see if I have another follow-up meeting with them, the sheriff's department, and see what we talked about doing certain things. I do know that we gave them 40 new memberships, and them 40 new memberships were not accepted. I have a major issues with 40 memberships rejected, and I think the funds were returned. So I presented them, gave them 40 new memberships at a meeting here a while back, and as far as I know, they haven't been accepted. So that will be dealt with.
Oh, this thing's been reorganized. Is the county involved in this now directly?
The county.
Other than the
Board
donation
members,
doesn't count.
I don't believe so. The structure, I believe, is still the same. I'd have to look at the bylaws. They're several pages long, but I believe it's still the same structure when it was set up. Board members have left and they've put new board members on that are, I want to say, different facades of the community. They've put different people on there now, maybe to branch
So
out.
this is still a 501(c)(3), I take it.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah,
It's a corporation.
Yeah,
entity,
nothing's been
so-
restructured from that aspect, to my
One of
knowledge.
the issues we have, we asked them to have their annual meeting. And according to the law, the annual meeting has to be publicated and people know what's going on. They did not advertise their annual meeting. And then 40 new memberships was gave to them long before that meeting, and there were 40 new memberships, I believe, were returned. And that's something.
But that's not a county issue, though.
No, but we as a county, in a fund different organization, we have a right to ask questions.
Well, I'm not saying that. It's just that we don't have.
And
Now, part of the issue was with the sheriff's department, which is a county issue. Was there some type of agreement between the sheriff's department and the corporation?
I think from a little time I've been on the board, they're trying to do a lot of house cleaning, keeping on documents, and I believe the agreements that they've had with Park and Vermillion County are handshake agreements, that they would do this, do that, and I think they're working towards a document that each county would sign, agree to. But I think Vermillion and Park, both sheriff's departments, have worked well with the shelter over the years. I just think there was some discourse there short term that, didn't work out very well. But I know my Cole Camp has been very helpful with funds, offering, I believe, even employees or even inmates over to go over there and help if they needed it. So
Is this something that we can maybe tie our contribution to, where we can
Well,
tie the
originally,
sheriff's into?
I think that's what even the shelter and the sheriff's department probably would like to see, is tie this to that in some capacity, to say, okay, for your donation of X amount of dollars a year, this is what the shelter agrees to do, type of thing. That way they're held to a standard, and then the sheriff's department's held to the same
We
thing.
can do that, John, in some way?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let
that's
me-
what I
If
thought.
they will also agree.
Sure.
Yeah,
And they
Sure.
both agree with us.
let me back up the agreement that was supposed to be into effect. I had a meeting with Jim Meese and their sheriff, also with Mike Holcamp, with Mayor Gilboy and his chief of police, with the main shelter. And we made some recommendations that day that there would be an appointment made by the commissioners from each county. There would be someone put on that board by the local town, representative from the local's largest town, which would be Rockville and Clinton, and then a representative from the sheriff's department, and we made those recommendations to them. I don't know if that's been followed up. Just something that we'll probably have another meeting. Also, we would coordinate with Park County. Park County is willing to do some help out there, and I think we would probably be, I don't know what percentage was thinking about having to build onto the shelter and be funded by the two counties, and those would be, the use of that would be restricted to our sheriff's department, and have some way that when we get dogs, as far as the sheriff's department, our sheriff's department would have dedicated area there that we could always have that open for that.
So I just spoke to Mike Volkamp, and last week they were not accepting any dogs, anything that was dumped. If it was dumped at your place, you're stuck with it. The sheriff's.
So I go back to.
Well, it is a private entity, so it's not a county entity
We
or
can't
governmental
force anything,
entity.
but we can make
Right.
recommendations because we do fund it. You know, I think that overall, there's a lot more animals out being dumped, and we know that. And that's rough on any organization. But in the past, it takes a lot of people running that place, and everybody thinks that, you know, we're complaining about stuff, and then these people are donating their time, so you gotta
Right.
respect that. But on the other hand, I think that they gotta be held accountable like any other organization. If we put money out, then I think we ought to, that's why I was trying to get representation from the city of Clinton, Rockville, Park County, and be appointed by those boards so we have representation for money for it.
So just, I'm writing the
Yeah.
animal control ordinances for Morgan County right now.
What county?
Morgan. So it's,
Can you come up here? I'd like to hear that.
yeah, sure. So, I mean, the state has some regulations for kennels and for breeding of animals. They just revised the state statutes last year, but most animal control regulations are local ordinances.
Or what?
Are local ordinances.
Okay.
So something that you would adopt, City of Clinton, Cayuga, whoever. So what we're trying to do in Morgan County is actually unify all the municipalities. So they're all expected to adopt the exact same ordinance. So it's the exact same regulations, no matter what jurisdiction you're in. But we're addressing everything from dumping of animals to safe haven for dumping of animals, kind of like a hospital or a fire station. If somebody drops a baby, there's no criminal charges that are pressed against them, but if they do something beyond that, then it is an illegal act. So if somebody brings an animal in and surrenders it properly, that there's no penalties. However, but that usually requires a fee as well. So you can surrender an animal and pay whatever, $100 or something that helps them board that animal for a period of time. Most of the animal shelters in the state have relationships with each other. So Boone County's regularly taking animals from other shelters that are overstocked and vice versa. So they do work together. But part of the ordinance is adding in, fines and penalties, even criminal. What crosses the line for criminality, and the sheriff's department or the police departments need to handle. So we're clearly defining what's the role of the police departments, what's the role of animal shelter, what's the role of local governments in that whole system. So anyways, what we're doing there is a very comprehensive overview and set of regulations for all aspects, everything from animal bites. If somebody gets bitten by an animal, what happens, what has to be reported, what information has to be kept. Because if it happens, maybe the first time it was just considered an accident or something that's not
repeat offenders.
right. But then if it happens again, then what happens? And at what point does somebody have to legally surrender their animal because it has been involved in an animal attack, either on another animal or on a person? So looking at the case law and making sure that they're dialing it in correct to that, that's what we're doing for them. So I do think that the state has some regulations, but it really is mostly on kennels and breeders, and not so much on, what happens if somebody dumps their animal.
So you don't think we have anything on file for that? Probably.
I think a long time ago, there was an ordinance made about leashes and fencing, but
I think we have.
I can't remember the exact details of it. It was something about making reasonable efforts to keep animal under control. And again, it's the age-old problem. We can't look up our ordinances, and once they're passed, I'm only human. I I can't remember exactly what they said.
Just make it up.
Just make.
You do that?
We do have a book, right? Just gotta
Oh, we
find
have.
it.
I think we got them all.
I
It's
might
just a
come
matter
up
of
and
finding
make
them.
my time to help find it.
I'm not trying to get more work, but
He is
just
pretty good, I'll
just
recommend
letting
him.
you know that there's quite a few communities that are abandoning American Legal Publishing and the other codification companies and doing a self-codification system. And I've been helping some communities do that, where we literally have just taken, I research all the ordinances, put them in a PDF file that's searchable. That's what gets published on the website. You make amendments to it, you can very easily make the updates that very day that they get adopted. Not even have to be paying those fees ongoing, because it is a fairly substantial amount of money that the codification companies are charging. And the other thing is that having gone through that process, I have found where the codification companies have made so many errors that it literally changed the language of the ordinance. Like one community that had tap fees for tapping into a sewer system, they just deleted it. It was never in the ordinance that was adopted, amendment to it. It never deleted that, but the codification company deleted that section. Now they don't have this $1,000 tap-in fee for every connection. My point is that I hear so many negative stories about how well they're doing the job and how much money they're charging. A lot of communities are just taking that up on themselves too.
So you'll do it for $1.50?
So again, another problem is that you've got definitions and terminology and penalties and fees that are all across the board not the same, and really a violation of one thing should be the same as a violation of something else. So you're actually, John would probably be able to speak to this too, is that you're having to defend your ordinances. They're not consistent with the other ordinances, that the definitions, the terms of penalties, the fines, enforcement actions, that it gets really gray and muddy. Wouldn't it be nice to have all your definitions in one section, all your enforcement section, and then you're just adopting the laws that you want to have changed, or then you just reference the definition, reference the enforcement penalties. There's the way Muni Code and American Legal Publishing have been doing it for years is just archaic. Honestly, it's just not serving communities.
Well, provide us with a proposal if you would.
I'd be glad to. It is something I do and I'm very passionate about, because they're not, just like this Unified Development Ordinance is meant to be super user-friendly. John should be able to find an answer in 1 minute on any question you have about your ordinances.
Question on that.
You're speaking to
Word
someone,
search.
be a big advocate for you that.
So, and it is this municipal attorneys that are trying to get communities to hire me to do this, because we have made it so much easier.
On UDO, I just noticed that there's not a word search on it.
There will be with the PDF. You can do word search.
Yeah.
Well, you have to show me. I had it on the county.
Control F, I had to find that out too, because I couldn't.
Well, why isn't there just a search?
A bar at the top?
Yeah.
Type in the word, yeah. I'm sorry.
And it's just like Microsoft Word. You have to do that Control F. Yep, it's
That
the same thing.
shouldn't be there. Yeah.
We can make it HTML, so it actually becomes a website. And then you can kind of dial in what you want the user to see. But that, for local staff to edit the HTML, create that, usually we would still have to be involved to help you keep publishing it as HTML.
Well, whatever. It should have a word search on it. That makes it very archaic, being they have to go through there and just go and read each section and see where it's at. Part of the mandate, or if you want to call it mandate, one of the requests, I guess, is a better way, is that this was searchable, and it's not searchable per se.
Yes.
Well, I guess maybe it is if you know
PDFs are
F1.
searchable. You just have to hit the Control F.
If you have that PDF function, though, you have to have the suite for Adobe Suite or
No,
something,
it's
or not?
Free reader.
Okay.
It's literally put on every computer that's purchased. You almost cannot, unless you.
Well, maybe
build
that
your
should
own-
be set at the top. Control F, you want to search or whatever, or F1 or whatever it is.
The other thing that can be done and is there is bookmarks. So there can be a column that has the table of contents. If you can click on it, no matter if you're on page.
But it's not, doesn't
50 or
help you with the
page
word
1.
search, though.
What's that?
That doesn't help you with the word search,
No,
though.
no, I'm just saying there's other ways to navigate the document.
Sure.
So that list that's on the side, you can click on those and get. to
Yeah, I
the
knew
document.
that. I didn't know the other, though.
But the
I
word
learned
search
something
is
today.
there.
A fantastic day. I learned something.
Yep.
Thank you.
One other question in closing, and I'll promise you won't say anything else. We have an employee at District 2 garage that was mowing and it hit a bolt and it hit the side of his vehicle. And it was on county property and the bill was around $3,000 and I didn't know, I'll bring you guys to, I think that we are responsible for that. And I'd like to see it paid, whether you guys agree or don't agree, that's up to you, but I don't see where any vehicle that is parked in the parking lot of our county and an employee is mowing grass and it's struck by a bolt, I think that we ought to be held liable for it.
I think the county should pay the entirety of that bill for that, whether it's $3,000, $2,500, whatever it is. I think we should.
I've seen the bolt, I've seen the piece it hit, and I've seen where it hit. And so, I'm just.
Well, should he not file a claim with the county?
What?
Should he not file a claim with the
Yeah,
county?
We tried. It's not covered under our insurance.
Yeah. They're probably taking it back to your own personal insurance that you should do it, but
You sure it's not covered, or just as above the limit, or the, what do we call it?
We just sent it to George. George said no. So if you want to call
I
George and
just
ask him about
regard,
it.
there's policy and things that are in place with insurance companies, who pays what. This is a situation where an employee was there using a county mower, his vehicle was parked on county property, and he was working for the county at the time it happened. I don't see where we could ever feel like that our employee ought to be responsible for something happened during the time that.
It was the same, the employee hit his own car,
No,
basically?
no.
Okay.
I'm just saying that I don't care what policy says. I think that we need to take care of our people.
We can't be doing that I'm opposed to that. You should file a claim with the county. Now, if insurance doesn't pay it, then it should come in front of the commissioners, not an afterthought announcement thing. So it should become a part of a claim against the county. And if we want to
That's where
pay
it's
that,
at.
then so be
That's where
it.
it's at.
Okay, but
So the insurance didn't pay it, and so.
it should become part of our docket and not part of a
I can
unique,
bring it up.
we vote on every time somebody stubs their toe.
We had it at the last meeting, it didn't get forwarded to us at the last meeting, so it's a little overdue. So I will send that to you all. But I would like to see, make that a consideration. I don't know if we can, we'll make that decision today. I'm ready to make the decision, but
I'm in favor of approving the pay. I mean, I'm in favor of it. So
take a vote on
Well, you'll have to make a motion first, but.
it. I make a motion to pay to Jeremy, what's his last name? Brian, I say it wrong, I apologize. District 2 garage to pay his claim, so.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion is that I just, sometimes when you look at things, you gotta look at a logical situation. An employee and employee time, working at an employee place, and something happens, I still think that we should.
We may consider that, but we, don't have a policy to that effect. And so we're going about piecemealing our policies together instead of our internal controls that we're supposed to have. The second part to this is whether we should pay it or not. The thing is that we have a docket and we have a claims that should be filed with the auditor whenever things are being done that can be discussed and approved in an orderly fashion. And to do these in a piecemeal fashion again is not appropriate. Until we do develop a policy, I don't agree with us doing this in this manner. So it's just, again, 4 years ago, I wanted us to sit down and do these things. And even today, we're still doing piecemeal work. And we're not necessarily being consistent with our work. Plus, we're setting precedent for future claims, if that be the case. So there's a whole host of things here than just being nice to the employer, being even responsible, and maybe we should be doing this, that we should be setting this in policy, not in discussions like this.
We can always improve, I agree with that. Thing about it is, like I said, what I believe we're responsible for employees, if they get hurt on the job on our place, and we're responsible for it.
Well, that is unemployment insurance, that has a whole different manner of things too. And the same thing with physical property damage and so forth. We just went through that, and I'm surprised that our insurance doesn't get involved, because we just did that with a truck that was with asphalt coming off of it. We just went through one of those things. Well, it caused supposedly damage to a car that was over $3,000 worth of damages. So, but anyway, I don't agree with our manner in which we're conducting our business, I guess, and that's the only reason why I'm going to probably not vote for this. I do agree that if we have a policy to that effect, then it'd be appropriate.
Okay, anybody have any closing comments before we?
Are we going to vote for this? Call for the vote?
Or
You just made a motion, there was a second, but there's no vote.
call for vote, all in favor? Aye, opposed?
No.
One
Anybody
last
else
thing,
anything?
one thing in closing, I emailed you guys the resumes for the VA position, the ones that, if you'd like to review those, I contacted all of them. 3 or 4 that I sent you, they're interested in being interviewed again. So let me know your guys' schedule, and we could do an interview process if you'd like.
Good.
Yeah, we do. I'd like to. I think we should. you
Sure,
know.
if you guys want to send me your dates, we can schedule an interview for them. They were very receptive to pretty much whatever day we could do, so.
Also, we need an executive session on appointments. So we need to set executive session on appointments. We need to set a date for that as well. Preferably before our next meeting, or unless we're going to go into December 31st, which I have a feeling we don't necessarily want to do
We
that.
will set a date, or can we set a date for that?
What's your tendency on the 31st?
I-
The meeting, that is.
I prefer just not to have one on the 31st if we don't have to.
Yeah.
What's next week?
And if we do, John brought up a good point of maybe making that a 9:30, because I think it's a 6:30 meeting on the 31st, if we do end up having it. We can make that decision at our next meeting if we think we still have things that need to be done before the end of the year, but.
I'm okay trying to have an executive meeting next week if you want.
Okay.
So conference goes to a Thursday.
Yes. Oh, I've got stuff.
Is that this week?
It'd
Yeah.
have to be
Don't lose that.
Friday the only day then, right? I go back to work Thursday night,
Next week?
this week.
Friday the 6th.
I can do anything during the day. I'll stay up and make things happen, so don't.
That's
worry.
not, no, it's asking when do we want the executive meeting.
For like next week.
Or you want to do the 10th? Or the 9th in the morning?
You're
council
saying
meeting
not
is
this
on.
week, you're saying next week, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't care.
The only days I would not be available would be
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so
You're not available then?
I work day shift.
So it'll be Monday or Tuesday next week?
Whatever you guys want to do schedule during the day, anytime, I will make myself available if I got to stay up.
I'm available Monday and Tuesday.
Okay,
It looks like.
for a morning.
That works for you.
Let me get back to work and I'll text you guys.
Yeah,
Alright,
council
one of
has a
those
meeting.
days I'm not available, but
Monday
I'll,
is council meeting.
Council has a meeting that evening
okay.
on the Monday.
I'll send you guys a message once I get back to work and see which day works better. Were you guys thinking 9 a.m. like Monday or Tuesday or?
I'll work whichever you guys want to do.
That sounds good.
You can make it convenient for your schedule.
Okay, I will check when I get back to
I
work.
don't have right now anything anyway.
Okay,
Okay. Anybody want to say the big words?
motion to adjourn.
You want to say the second big words?
I will second.
Second. All in
Did
favor?
those guys leave? Daggone it. I
All in
had questions for them.
Aye. Great.
Oh, yeah.
Shoot.
Lots of stuff.
3-hour meeting.
I was gonna ask you something I forgot.
Well, you can't ask me if you forget. John, what's your rest of your day look like?
Interviews and guarding ad litem case.
Interviews.
Yeah, guarding ad litem, I get appointed to a child and I have to investigate and advise the court on what